So.
All right, I'm going to call the meeting of the planning board to order. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out on a rainy evening. So present we have Peter Morton,
Here.
Brian Fry,
Here.
Sarah Creighton present,
Chris Olney here.
Gordon Brewster, present. John Harden, present.
and Mark Resnick, our Director of Land Use, also present. Before we start with the public hearing, I want to hear if there are any public comment on matters that are not on the agenda. So those of you who are here for the 214 Summer Street, we'll certainly be taking your comments shortly. But if there's any people who have anything they want to comment on before that. If anybody online, Nate, can you hear us? Or
Yep.
okay, thank you, excellent. Okay, anybody online that I can't see want to make any comment?
I don't see any hands.
No, okay, great, thank you. With that, I will open the public hearing for 214 Summer Street, a special permit to build a new dwelling and access driveway. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. So tonight, I think we have Tom Sack from Hancock, who will walk us through the plan. And I think some of us have walked the site. I think all of us are familiar where it is. We did that a while ago.
Back in May.
Back in May.
Great. Tom, go ahead and
Do I have the ability to share my screen? Or?
do you, yeah.
Sure. It says it's disabled, so I just. What's my email?
Can you? Can you request it? I somehow can't
Let me try again.
seem
It
to.
says disabled share, host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Can you ask him to, he's got it signed in on. You can do that one.
Nice comfy chair for you.
Hi, Sandy. And we have Sandy Bodmer Turner joining us. We signed in differently today. Sorry. Is it the material that's in our package?
Yes.
Okay, I'll share it.
Just behind people fine.
Tell me what you want to start with.
We start with the existing conditions plan. So yeah, as you mentioned, we are here for the special permit filing for section 6.4 for ledge removal and excessive cut within the interior and setback areas. So that being said, our site is located at 241 Summer Street. It is a steep hillside with ledge predominantly along Summer Street, and as the hill goes vertical towards the vernal pool in the back, we found areas where we were able to find soil testing. As I mentioned at the top of the site, top of the property, there is a vernal pool. So Manchester by the Sea has a 200-foot vernal pool buffer that we had to go to conservation for. We did get approval for conservation to have our septic system within the 200-foot. That being said, we also went through the Board of Health and we did have our septic system approved through Wendy at the Board of Health.
Sorry, this is not the way we usually have this.
Yeah, he's calling to
Yeah,
find
this
out
is in a way,
how to fix it.
because I don't have my second screen. And I don't know if that is happening. Let's
You said 241.
Oh, 214, excuse me, yep.
Am I still in the meeting?
Oh, I think it's,
Is it letting you?
don't share audio. I think it's letting me know.
Oh, something just happened.
Tom can share.
There you
There we go,
Alright.
yay!
All right.
Anyone works on it, so.
Whatever.
Okay,
Success.
Alright, so I'll kind of start over a little bit, so.
alright,
So yes, we're here for the ledge removal under section 6.4 and the excessive cutting in the interior and setback areas of the site. The site is predominantly a steep hillside, with ledge outcrops closer to Summer Street. You can kind of see these on the plan's south page down here. So that's, the majority of our ledge outcrops is along Summer Street. And then as you move up the site, we were able to, like I said, find areas where there was less ledge and we were able to do some soil testing. You can see by these test pit and percolation test areas. So that is where we ended up going with our septic system. And then we kind of built the site around having a viable septic area. One thing I did mention is that we do have a vernal pool on the property. You can see the key map in the bottom left. Let me highlight it for the people in the back. So this is the vernal pool that we located and delineated. So yep, Manchester by the Sea does have a 200-foot buffer to the vernal pool. We went through conservation, they accepted and allow us to put our septic system within the buffer. We didn't add any impervious areas like that. And then last but not least, we did go to Wendy for the Board of Health, at the Board of Health for the septic system, and we do have an approved plan for septic.
Could you,
Just last year.
would you mind pointing out that 200-foot line?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think your pointer was.
Speed, try to speed,
Showing
try
up.
to serve.
If it goes blank, let me know.
There we go.
Oh, there you go.
So our 200-foot vernal pool buffer,
I don't think your cursor, oh
We
yeah.
see it, yeah.
It's like a delay.
Yeah.
so I highlighted that yellow line at the
there
top
you
of
go.
the screen. So that is the 200-foot vernal pool buffer.
It says 100-foot on your plan.
So it's a 100-foot buffer to the vernal pool, and then the town calls it a 100-foot buffer to the 100-foot buffer. But it's kind of,
100-foot buffer.
but it's 200 feet total. Yes, that's how it's kind of broken
There
up.
you go.
So, so that's where our septic is, or a portion of our septic area is. All right. So as I mentioned, we did build our site around the septic area. The septic area did require a fill. So we do have a retaining wall in the rear of the yard. And then once we had our septic kind of sized and located, we decided to move forward with getting into the site, which is our driveway. Driveway was kind of we worked with the fire department. They have specific slopes and lengths that we need to meet. If we are excessive, I think of 150 feet, we needed to turn around. That's why we kind of have this larger driveway at the top, so the truck can pull in and then back into that kind of crushed stone area, and then go back down the driveway. It's just for the emergency access. It's not ideal, but we do need to have fire department access the site. Other improvements we're proposing permeable pavers at the parking court. We weren't able to do permeable pavers down the driveway because of the steepness. You can't exceed 5%. For the dwelling itself, all the dwelling is captured and is infiltrated in a subsurface chamber system. I'll get to that a little bit next, but that is this little box here. And then we do have an enlargement here. So you can see we have our subsurface chambers. It's adjacent to our septic. This area, we decided that it would be best because of the ledge to build up this area. It would allow us to keep material on site. And also, it would allow us to have some separation of groundwater so we can meet the Mass Stormwater Handbook standards for 2 feet separation. Other drainage improvements we do have is because of the ledge, we really weren't figuring we'd be able to get any type of infiltration at the bottom of the driveway. We do have a small detention pond at the bottom of the driveway. It's not a lot of volume. It's really only like 2 feet deep. It's really nothing crazy. Our goal is to see once we start excavating or removing ledge if this area has soils or not. We can plant it. It's kind of our goal is to eventually plant it and just treat it as a normal detention basin. Other things along the driveway, we do have kind of a crushed stone. We are worried about some type of erosion problems as water pitches into the driveway and into the detention basin. Sometimes those things can get washed away, so we just want more of that. Lastly, we are going through the stormwater management permit with the Department of Public Works. We did a drainage study. The hill goes much further past our property, and all of the water drains across our property, kind of in the, we'll say, east-west direction, and it drains into the abutting lot and into Summer Street. We found that the neighbors had some water problems. We've been dealing with the abutter in the past. We really want to kind of push water away from his lot. We're proposing a drainage swale along the western property line. And that's, our goal is to kind of collect anything that the septic area provides and then channel it down towards Summer Street. We have a catch basin here in Summer Street that we've been driven to. Not a lot of water, it's more just getting it away from the abutter. Our BMPs are kind of limited for the site, so if we can just get water away from the abutter, then we think that would help everyone. We're not exceeding any type of flows into Summer Street. Where most of our flow, when we do the drainage study, we take into account the flows coming off our site. So we do meet peak rates, we do get recharge, and we do meet water quality. So those are the kind of the big ones for mass stormwater.
And where's the swale?
It's,
Can you show us?
they kind of look like little curves or humps along here. So we berm up along the property line, and then this is a low spot. So the goal is to have water fast track along the property line instead of just rushing down the sloped septic area and into the abutter's lot. And then that would travel down along the swale and into the catch basin.
If you go back to the topo of the existing conditions, you can see the difference between the two.
Yeah, you see how it just flows right into the abutter's lot?
Oh,
It's
brother.
very, very aggressive, so, and with our drainage study, I went into Mass Mapper and pulled LiDAR, and then we looked at the lots up at the hill, and there's two peaks at the top of the hill, and all the water just rushes through these lots. It's excessive, it really is. So our goal was to keep our neighbor dry and keep our client dry, so it was very important to us, and we thought that swale was kind of a nice touch to avoid any water issues. And this is just kind of a cross section of the chambers. They're just standard Storm Tech chambers, plastic, 30 inches tall. Nothing really crazy. It's just there for our recharge purposes. And like I said, all the water off the roof is considered clean, so we're just recharging all the water from the roof right into those chambers. All right,
And you have good soils under those?
yes, well, we're filling up the whole system. The soils that we found when we were there were loamy sands, and that's kind of more higher textural class. And then we cross-referenced it with NRCS Web Soil Survey, so and it said it was the same. The only concern for us was the ledge, so that's why we're building up this system. We can bring in or move around better material and put it underneath there. And then I did do a quick little like cut fill analysis. Our cut fill, I think, I'm just spitballing, I think it was around 260 cubic yards of cut, which I was a little surprised because I was figuring we were gonna be shipping off a lot more material. And when we discussed the project with the board during our site walk, I forget who it was, I think it was you, you suggested that we do boulder walls, and we think that's a great idea. So we definitely listened to the board with that. We created this tiered boulder wall system, so that will kind of be more aesthetically pleasing from the road. We're using material on site, it's not going anywhere, and you know, it kind of keeps with the look. Our big concern when we were kind of developing this lot is the board would really want to know how it looks from the street. I've had other projects where, you know, that's been a major factor. We find that if we're traveling towards Gloucester, that's your vantage point right into the property. You see right up the driveway, and you see into the detention pond. So those are things that I worked with James at James Emanuel to provide a landscape plan for. And our goal is to kind of hide those things so that, because going the other way, you won't see anything, the ledge is all gonna be there, it's gonna be planted, there's trees there anyways, as there is now, so. That was kind of our concerns, and that's what we got a lot from our site walk, it was very beneficial to us, so. And, with that, I don't know if James is on yet, he said he'd be on at 1:15.
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect.
Okay, you wanna just walk us through the landscape plan?
Sure, so,
Can you share that?
let me just, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we've got the driveway coming into the site, as you see, with the, with the slope. We're really looking at a series of terraces. On the plan, we've got a plant palette in the upper corner, some showing what types of plants are going there and, rough existing tree line. What I'm really looking to do here is to, within those terraces, just kind of fill it with planting so it's really a stepped edge of green going up, even more so than just boulders or stones or anything, but it's really just going to be a vegetated appearing slope. We've got a few controls that we need to, work with, which is, the leaching fields. We've got the septic system, the pump chambers and stuff for the septic system, so we need flat areas for those, which you see off to the left of the house. But as really you come to the driveway, and we also have, as you come to the driveway, there's that elbow. We need to also have an area where we're catching water and holding it, and that's that area to just to the left of the sharp curve of the driveway off Summer Street. So that would be, where the water runs into. We would want to have vegetation within that space, on the back of that space to create less of a hardscape look as you're entering. Then we would have behind that, you can see the terraced wall between, and back of that would be fully vegetated. Then the second terrace fully vegetated, and the third terrace fully vegetated. Along the side of the property, the left side, you see that we've got a swale that's directing water to that same area. And while maintaining the swale, we would be proposing some evergreen buffer plantings along that edge too. That's all regraded, so we'd be putting new plants in on that location as well. One of the features when we were kind of collaborating on this and looking at the grading and what we can do with this site, you can see along Summer Street we've got some existing trees, so we want to do our best to maintain what we've got for existing vegetation there, because I think that foreground of plantings is really something that's going to be beneficial and helpful and help maintain the aesthetic that we're going for. Behind that, it's really a lot of ledge and outcropping. There's not much that's going to grow there, but I did want to adjust the contours a little bit there so that it shows kind of a berm, and you'll see that the contours are a little bit rounded as they sort of point downhill, and we'll be adding some soil there to make the driveway feel a little more nestled in, and then that also gives us more soil depth in that location, so we can plant the seed mix, and that would be sort of a native grass and wildflower seed mix that would establish mostly, I think we had mostly grasses, but that's going to be something that sort of creates more of like a meadow type feel. And what we want with that is to keep everything stable, but we want it just to be something like a softer element that softens all the hardscape that's behind it, while not having to require to plant too deeply into the ledge outcrop. So we made that adjustment from the civil grading onto the landscape plan, and in the other areas where we have kind of steep slopes as you get up to the top of the drive, there's a fairly steep slope. You could also stabilize it with the same kind of seed mix. When we get to the permeable pavers, you can see in back of that there's this kind of a planting bed. We would vegetate that entirety of that, going around the backyard where the septic leaching field is. That's all cleared out and sort of a flat lawn space that would be associated with the property. But from that, going back downhill, we would again revegetate that, and at its steepest point there's a wall, and then the same kind of meadow seed mix, along with some other shrubs that we would use with fibrous root systems that would stabilize that embankment as well too. So what we really want to do with this is not look at bare slopes in any way. We don't really want to see the structure of the terraces, we just want to see vegetation. We want to see kind of grassy, meadowy hills. We've got a few trees where we can, and we're looking to also buffer and put evergreens along the adjacent property while maintaining the drainage swales to preserve the grading and stormwater management that's been developed in the civil plan. So that's the landscape plan. I can answer any questions on that.
So I have a question. Can you describe the vegetation that you'd be putting into those ledges going up to the house?
Yeah, so I'm looking at a palette of shrubs that are native, and we've got a mix of things like bayberry, cleftra, sweet fern, fondudilla, viburnum, inkberry, red twig dogwood. So it's a pretty good native mix of stuff that's fairly tough, that will spread, that will, in some cases, the root growth kind of suffers a little bit too, so they kind of really grab hold. For evergreens, we're looking at things like American holly, eastern red cedar, green giant arborvitae, Manhattan juniper, which is a type of eastern red cedar, and gray elm is a spreading type of juniper, so that's sort of more like a lower growing type of juniper that would be evergreen as well too. And where we have the opportunity for trees, we're looking at dogwoods, eastern redbud birch, if we can get some oaks in some places. I'm not sure we have space for some as big as a pagoda dogwood, service starting witch hazel. So keeping the palette as it's pretty much native or almost, East Coast native at least, almost entirely native for this region as well too. And in the seed mix, it would be all native grasses as well. So those are some of the plants we're looking at. The key criteria of the plants is that they kind of do the job of stabilizing, filling in, and sort of providing visual benefit as well as a habitat benefit too that I think would be beneficial.
And can you describe the boulders? On the plan, it looks like they're all uniform round things, which...
Yeah, I think Tom has made that adjustment, but what we were looking at was more of a stacked boulder look rather than like a retaining wall look. So when we do a plan like this, graphically we're showing where the terraces and where the grading is going to be, but in reality the stones have a dimension to them, and when you see, so maybe zoom in a little bit on that, Tom, if you could, on the terraces there. We want to just sort of make sure that we're maintaining clearances for places to put plantings, but the plantings are going to kind of intermingle with boulders that have dimension to them. So it may not be 5 feet exactly on one area, but we would nestle a plant next to the boulder so that the boulder would kind of be forward or further back in certain locations, but it won't really look like a segmental wall kind of look.
Yeah, the more natural I think you can make it look,
Yeah,
the more
I
pleasing it's
agree.
going to
No, 100%.
And the plantings along the neighbor's border, you just show them as evergreens, and your evergreen list includes
Yes. So we
giant
did-
green arborvitae, which is not a native.
That's right. That's one of the ones that's not native. That's a western arborvitae. But we do have Manhattan juniper. We have eastern red cedar, American holly. So we have a few different ones to choose from if we want to. Go. Sometimes I include that plant just because it's fairly reliable. It's a fast grower and kind of gets the job done. But we certainly could use some of the other plants if we didn't want to use something that isn't native. We looked at a different type of arborvitae, like dark American is East Coast native. Some people don't consider it to be Essex County native per se, but it's more native to the East Coast. We could do that as well too. The western arborvitae grows a little faster, has a central leader, which makes it a little bit stronger in winter. But either one, I think we'd be open to.
Okay. And you're proposing those, that, along that border, those evergreens to start off at 7 to 8 feet? Is that?
7 to 8 is what we're proposing would be the minimum size.
Questions, comments from the board?
I have another question for Tom, actually, maybe a comment. The water going down the driveway is essentially gonna get diverted into the retention pond, not into the street. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the goal. And James and I actually talked about this in our meeting. It was kind of too late for us to revise our plans. That's 15% down the steepest part of the driveway, and that's a 2% cross slope. We're thinking we're about bumping that up a little bit more to like maybe 3 or maybe a little bit more. It will the car will hug a little bit more into the driveway. It'll feel a little bit safer, and also it'll get that water, make sure it goes right into that detention pond. So that's
So
kind
we'll
of
tilt
It'll
toward the
Yeah, it'll
interior
kinda
of
like
the
a-
space.
like a race car turn, I guess, but not really. That's an extreme, but.
Which way is it racing? Is it gonna tilt towards the house or to the street?
Towards the head,
Towards the
it tilts towards the house.
Tilt towards the house. Yeah, no, we don't wanna go towards the street.
Okay, other questions, John?
Yeah, I had a couple of drainage questions too. I think we discussed it or asked this question on site. Is there intended to be a basement?
There is a basement, so it's actually a walkout. So this,
No, a basement to the,
Basement
to the house. Go ahead, sorry.
yeah, so this is actually a walkout basement right here.
Got it.
So we have a basement floor elevation of 62.5, finished
Yeah.
floor is 63.
Is there a foundation drain then that's tied into?
Yes, so we're showing a roof tree around here.
Yeah.
Foundation drains, we could coordinate something with the architect, and
Yeah.
we just need a location. Foundation drain can just be outed. I believe that could go right into the recharge system. It's minor water, so it wouldn't blow up our rates. It would just be more beneficial to recharge back into the ground, so.
Yeah, I was just thinking of all that water that's currently coming down from
Yeah.
the adjoining property and up against the house. It's gonna wanna go somewhere, hopefully not into your house,
Yeah,
but somewhere
So-
around.
so yeah, we do have, so we kind of mounted up, the septic system dictated a lot of things, so we had to get minimum cover with a 2% slope over the septic, just to meet Title V. So once we kind of got this high point here, the 73 contour at the top, kind of by TP4, we said, well, why don't we pitch the water away from the house in both directions? And that's where we looked at creating the swale towards the driveway. We bumped up in front of the house a little bit, and you can see the 71.5 right there. So we're going right down into the driveway. So water's going around, and then it's going around the other way, and then we already discussed the swale, but we want to get that away from the neighbor.
Can I ask a question too?
Yep, of course.
Along those lines, so in your materials, you mentioned many references to the overflow going south to Summer Street.
Yes.
So can you just point out exactly where you anticipate that going?
So for us, this would be, it would overflow the detention pond, and then it would go down into Summer Street like it normally does.
Is that DP1?
That'd be DP1. Yeah, DP1 is, so it's a drainage point. So whenever we do our drainage analysis, we create subcatchments of areas that we kind of manipulate water, and it all drains to one point. That's DP1. In this case, it's the Summer Street drainage, and it's highlighted in our stormwater report. Some projects, you have multiple drainage points. That's when you have to take into account water going to both of those points, and you can't send more water one way than there was previously. So this is one case where we just said it's all going to Summer Street. Let's see what we can do to provide a better system for the neighbor, for ourselves. There's a butter across the street, so that they get plenty of water. So we want to basically capture everything. We've outdone ourselves with the peak rates. Like, you know, we meet the peak rates. We're doing recharge. So it's basically matching existing condition, but we're doing a little bit better. And we're trying to, like, our goal is always to improve sites. So this is one of those cases.
What was the vegetation before it was stripped?
Before it was stripped. So it was kind of lightly wooded. I went out there, when did I do soil testing with Wendy? Might have been 2024, right?
Yeah, that's good.
So it was light vegetation. We didn't pick up on our survey many significant trees, so those are, I think we did 18 inches caliper or 12 inches caliper on site, and that's at 4 feet high. So the site itself, I remember it being pretty, there's a lot of ledge outcrops before, so I remember walking, you get over the first like mound of ledge, and then it was like a walkway of ledge into the back of the lot where we were soil testing, and that's where you started really finding the soils. So I wouldn't say there was really thick vegetation of any sort. It was pretty light.
I have a question about the catch basin. So to create that, you guys are digging down as opposed to building up the perimeter of the catch basin.
Yep.
Our bylaw requires a minimum of 18 inches of topsoil on disturbed surfaces and 6 inches where lawn and grass. Is that what you're gonna be able to do, or is there gonna be a need for an exception on that?
So it's very dependent on where we get with chipping away at the ledge, hammering at ledge. So, you know, there's gonna be some situations where it's gonna be a little bit more open drain if we can't get the ledge removed. But our goal is to create any type of grass or landscape surface to help with our design and slow down peak rates. The site is predominantly ledge, so you can only do so much to further the site. I know James mentioned there's areas like along the driveway we're willing to bring in material to mound up the side of the driveway, but
So how much material you're taking off now?
so it was 264 cubic yards. So I think it was a little bit higher with the original design, and the terracing of the boulder walls helped us get that number up.
And do you know how much will be trucked off site?
That was my assumption, is that if the 260 cubic yards aren't used, that would be the max that we would truck off site. But I assume there may be locations on site where we would do maybe a little bit more filling.
Okay, other questions?
Can we ask questions about the stormwater management?
Yeah.
This morning, huh? So, this is incredibly detailed and really great. And it's got so many checks and balances in it throughout. You've got the tables for recording your inspections, your visits and all. I just wonder, and I don't know, Sarah, if this is a question for you, or how are we updated as you go, that you are truly delivering on everything that you say in here?
So first off, we filed with Department of Public Works, so they're gonna probably have a third-party peer reviewer to make sure that all our stuff in there is good to go. Next, we also have in the back of your stormwater report, or I think it's section 8, it's your operation and maintenance plan. So we have these BMPs, the subsurface infiltration system, the detention pond, the gravel drip edges along the driveway. So those are things that do need to be maintained, and those are the responsibility of the owner. But we provide that plan so that they know, you know, if there's an issue, I need to get ahead of this. And you know, with the chambers, I'm not as worried because there's no grit going into it. It's just roof. So that might need a little less maintenance, but you're obviously going to need to maintain the drainage basin at the bottom of the driveway. There's going to be stuff flowing in there. So that is something that we do. We provided a table for that for the applicant.
Peter, your question is how are we assured that it's going to be built, as you said?
Yes.
Accountability.
It's not maintenance.
Yeah.
It's not maintenance.
I mean, there's a lot outlined in here about the
Yeah,
responsibility
it's
of
great.
the owner. And
Yeah,
there are a lot of, you know, if you read this and you're at a butter, you likely have a lot of expectations that this is well documented. That's why I was asking.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Yeah.
We can definitely, what we do typically, and I've had this happen in the past, where with the subsurface chamber systems, very critical piece of this stormwater management system, we do go out, we do bottom embedded inspections, we do as-built, so we'll make sure that it's at the correct elevation. We'll make sure that we'll take pictures so we can share with the board pictures of the system. You'll see the top of chambers, you'll see all the stone, and then we can make sure that has been properly installed.
And how much more water is gonna hit 127 Summer Street after this project is done?
So we've reduced peak rates, so all of our water goes to our drainage point 1. That's our only place that we're assuming the water is traveling.
Okay.
So if you look at the flow, so the peak rate and the volume in that table on section 2, the flow and peak rates for the 210, 25, and 100-year storms all were reduced. So less water is going to Summer Street than before.
Is it possible to actually measure it after it's done to make sure that happened?
That is a good question. That is a good question. Need a big bucket for that. So I will say in regards to that, I totally recommend talking to Chuck Dam. The stormwater management permit is very conservative. When we do the base design, we assume the entire area is a very low curve number, so it's good woods material, like condition. This is all ledge. So we already assume that this is all very good woods, dense woods for our proposed condition, our existing condition. And then on top of that, for our proposed condition, we had to do better than that. So, and that's kind of highlighted in the stormwater report. I can feel safe saying that we would be reducing peak rates and volume going into Summer Street, especially with knowing that we're held to that high standard by that stormwater management permit.
Well, Nate's on, can Nate comment, you think?
Nate, what's that curve
Well,
number?
I don't know if Nate's looking.
Oh, do you get on?
Yeah, you on? I think it,
So I do just want to point to something on page 5.
Yep.
Where, Sarah mentioned that it requires 6 inches of topsoil,
Mhm.
and you have 4 inches here, so you might want to adjust that.
We can do that.
So I was just going back to John's question, a different take on John's question, which is there a basement? So because the design of this house has a basement, the excavation is significantly greater than it would be if it didn't have a basement. And our standard, the triggers, why we're here, just to changes in elevation of more than 5 feet within the setback area, which may or may not be the case.
Yes.
Setback is, no, not, but interior, yes.
Yes, result of excavation, disturbing more than 10% of the setback, that's not the case. Interior area special permits, topographical change that involve the interior movable, any portion of pre-construction exposed ledge resulting in a change in elevation of more than 10 feet, and resulting in the excavation, deposit, or removal of more than 100 cubic feet of earth, clay, sand, gravel within the interior area. Whether or not the material is deposited or removed or is relocated elsewhere within the site. So you're significantly over our trigger for a single family, for any lot.
Our
Interesting is
basement's
the
exempt.
standard is the same for cell signaling.
Yeah, it's exempt, they're exempt, the basements are exempted from the bylaw.
Yes, but they still require, but the use of excavating for a basement contributes
Sure, it
to
does.
the amount of material that's moved,
So,
right? I mean, because, so it's like
yes, yeah.
the house
yeah.
design was presented and then we're gonna make it fit, as opposed to, we have a site that's ledgy and steep. How do we make a house fit to the site? I mean, it's a different approach.
Just one comment on that. So the house is in an area where cutting would be required. Finished floor elevation 62.5. 63 contour is right across the front of the house right there. So we would be cutting into the hillside. I don't remember if the garage I know is slab on grade. So this portion here
Does not have a basement.
does not have a basement. So, yes, we would be in, yeah.
I'm simply stating it, not necessarily yet having an opinion.
So just curious, when we were on the sidewalk, you were I think we're just beginning to really contemplate the ledge and just how severe it is and what means you might have to use in order to create the environment that even blasting was mentioned. Is that something that you know yet, what are we gonna have to do?
We don't know. Our intention is to hammer first, and then if blasting is required, we obviously come to the town and request that. We don't want to.
Yeah.
Although blasting is usually a one-time thing with then removal, but where hammering goes on forever.
Yeah. I believe the town does have like set hours,
Yeah.
Yes.
so that's something we would be strictly abiding to.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, John.
I have one other question, I guess, to the point of, how will we know if what you designed is working, when the basin overflows, right? That's sort of when the capacity has been met for the site.
Definitely for storms, yep.
Does the, storm chamber stuff you've got, does that overflow into the catch basin as well?
So yeah, that's gonna go down into our drainage swale.
Yeah.
I had it on the enlargement.
So really that catch basin at the end of the day is where everything's going to end up.
It would disperse. It does kind of pan in two directions.
It's metered out of there, I assume.
What's that?
It's metered out of the,
Yeah.
out of the tanks.
Does it have an overflow though as part of the
Yeah, it's an
system?
overflow grate in the top. So once you exceed the maximum capacity, it goes up. It's more efficient than if you have like a 6-inch pipe coming out the side of it. You lose a lot of your volume.
Yeah.
And we don't really have anywhere to outfall to. Like, it would be nice to outfall to the detention pond, but that's a lot of volume just going straight to the detention pond.
Yeah.
And also that jumped our peak rates. We lost volume, and it's kind of creating a heavy flow into that direction. So
Yeah.
We didn't want to overwhelm that.
So the detention pond then, like worst case scenario, and I had a project like this where all the numbers worked great, everything was fine. There was one rainstorm that was more inches of rain per hour than ever anticipated, and the bottom of our building flooded. Which is, you never want that with a client, obviously, but in any case, so, you know, it's feasible that could top out, right, and overflow. So just thinking as a neighbor, like, let's say it happens, let's say we get worse storms in the future and all that stuff. You could always build up the height of that and increase the capacity of it.
Yeah, you could go up. I think the next size up is 45-inch. So, you know, if there were serious issues, you could bump the height of the wall. This is kind of the wall could go up a little bit if you needed to add, 15 inches more of chamber. It would just be increasing the wall, and then you have to get.
I was thinking adding height to the pond if you
Oh,
had to.
yes.
You could do that. Right?
Yeah.
Well, but the problem with that is that then the special permit has been issued, the
Yeah.
stormwater permit has been issued
Yeah.
for a particular design conditions.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, I think the leverage, the opportunity is now to say, if we, to do it now would be the time to do that rather than something,
But I think we've got the,
we only have certain tools.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if in the future, if I were a neighbor who was worried about this, I'd be thinking, are we locked into a situation that might be worse in the future? There are things that could be done to mitigate an issue.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Just to address your concern, so we did do the design for the 210 2,500-year storm. So the water bubbles out at the top of the chambers at the 100-year storm, but it's not blowing out the chambers, and we're not having any critical issues according to our HydroCAD models. So.
Nate, are you still on? And have you guys reviewed this yet?
How you doing? This is Chuck.
Hi, Chuck.
I'm on, and I missed the first question.
Yeah, the question was-
This is about the stormwater management for this site.
240.
Yeah, we're in the middle of reviewing it, but we haven't discussed it at length yet with Tom or the Hancock folks.
Okay, great, thank you. So we'll definitely want to hear back from them. Okay, any other comments right now from the board? We have received a couple of letters. I'm not sure they went to everybody, so if you'll bear with me. I did promise that we would get these read, and some of you may be here, but the first is from Matthew and Elizabeth Spring, 216 Summer Street. I'm writing as an abutter regarding the special permit application for earth removal and filing at 214 Summer Street. I respectfully urge the board to deny the permit on several key grounds. First, the lot is primarily ledge, and any topographic alteration will require substantial blasting and rock removal. The current developer previously exposed those conditions when clear cutting the land. The subsequent buyer was fully aware of the site's physical constraints at the time of purchase. Granting a permit now would effectively accommodate a known condition rather than preserve the natural topography and neighborhood character that the bylaw is intended to protect. Second, this area contains a complex and historic drainage system. Previous developments on related lots already increased runoff and erosion, impacting my property and others in the surrounding area. Additional blasting, excavation, and filling activities could further exacerbate these issues. The board's primary responsibility to protect natural resources and prevent adverse impacts to neighboring properties is particularly important in this case. Third, I have significant concerns regarding the setback area behind my property. A portion of this area contains a strip of land that was retained by an adjoining owner and was not conveyed to the development parcel. Despite this, work activity has already occurred immediately adjacent to my property boundary, and the existing stone wall includes the staging of rock, timber, debris, and construction equipment. The attached photographs provide examples of these conditions. While I understand the developer-related party may own the adjacent land, I respectfully ask the board to ensure the ownership of neighboring property is not used to circumvent the intent of required setbacks or expand the effective development areas beyond which zoning regulations contemplate. Preservation of these setback areas is particularly important to me as I'm a budding owner and because my property retains future subdivision potential that could be affected by encroachment into or erosion of established setbacks. I would also appreciate clarification regarding future access plans for proposed lot. Based on the existing site conditions, it appears that construction of a driveway or other improvements may require use of adjacent land outside the development parcel. Is the applicant seeking, or does the applicant seek any easement, access right, or other legal interest over neighboring property in order to facilitate development? If so, I believe the information is relevant to the board's consideration. The board must ensure any special permit does not harm the neighbor's natural environment, historic character, drainage patterns, or abutting properties. Given the known site constraints and the substantial blasting and filling likely require the drainage concerns and the questions surrounding the setback areas, I do not believe this applicant satisfies either the intent or the spirit of the zoning bylaw. Thank you for your considering my concerns. I trust the board will uphold the protections set forth in the zoning bylaw and carefully evaluate whether this application truly meets the standards required. Please confirm receipt. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is from Emily Snyder and Ted Snyder, 225 Summer Street. Maybe I'll try to summarize this one. It looks like we have similar concerns. The first is drainage, and they've only lived here for 13 years. Asking us to deny the permit. The first reason is drainage and runoff. It sits on a ledge below Hickory Plum Hill watershed boundary in an area with long history of engineered drainage. I want to make sure we come back to engineered drainage. This includes an old terracotta pipes near our home and historic Olmsted era drainage scheme and French drains damaged 60 years ago that still shape the flow today. Given how fragile and poorly understood the system already is, we're concerned that blasting and further earth removal could unpredictably disrupt it. The existing storm drains on either side of 214 Summer Street already feed a wetland buffer zone covering nearly our entire property. We've already spent significant time and money mitigating flooding from the past developments and don't believe the system can absorb more. The developer has made no effort to understand this drainage history or engage with the abutters about it, raising our concerns about whether the application meets the bylaw's purpose. Secondly, safety. Over the past 2 years, the developer has repeatedly parked on public sidewalks, operated heavy equipment directly above the sidewalk on 128 without a spotter, and obstructed traffic without police detail. We witnessed a falling tree branch from this equipment nearly strike a bicyclist, and we've contacted my Mass DOT multiple times about safety issues here, and MassDOT has reached out to the developer regarding the same concerns. This is not an isolated incident. For comparison, the work at 208 Summer Street, a similar ledge wetland lot was set back on 128 via curb and longer driveway, kept equipment away from the traffic and the butters. We see no comparable setback here, and the board is already familiar with how dramatically that land was reshaped and how much more extensive the work proved to be than anyone anticipated. That's at 208 Summer Street. We feel our firsthand experiences along with this historic drainage context are directly relevant to the decision before the board. We also have real doubts that conditions will be followed. We don't believe this proposal fits the intent of the zoning bylaw or the logistical realities and natural topography of the part of Summer Street, and we respectfully ask the board to deny the permit. And then from Cindy McDougall, to the Manchester Planning Board, we concur with the letters that have been submitted by our neighbors at 216 and 225 Summer Street concerning ongoing drainage and land disruption and safety concerns going forward. We are at 212 Summer and experience worsening drainage issues since this land has been disturbed by entire tree removal, topsoil removed off the land, and rocks displaced. If blasting was to occur, we fear worsening conditions. We trust in our planning board, thank you, to make determinations that this special permit will be questioned thoroughly. I think those were the 3 letters we've received. Mark, did we have any others that you're aware of? Pardon me?
Those are the ones
Okay,
we
thank you.
received, yes. And we'll
So-
forward it to everybody.
Before we take public comment, which we will in a minute, I want to ask about the, because we heard about that on the site walk, what Mark and I did from Ms. McDougall after some of you had left, that there's an old drainage set of pipes that serves this area. Have you been able to locate any of those, or?
Heard about it, but it hasn't been something that, I didn't see them on a plan or any type of location. I don't even, do we know where it outfalls?
No, that's what I'm asking
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I don't know where it outfalls, so if somebody were to wanna discuss it and, it's something I've discussed with someone, but we don't have any record of that.
Okay. Any other questions from the board before we keep going? Great. Members of the public who would like to,
Good, a couple of questions.
yeah,
Tom
should you tell
Frank.
us your name?
Tom Frank, 195 Summer Street,
Great, thank
which is
you.
just across and a little bit downstream.
Okay,
So I only looked at the lot from the sidewalk, it was a long time ago, just after it got denuded. And it's a big pile of rocks as far as I can tell, and I understand the plan is to remove a lot of the rocks and put some dirt back. But something I don't understand, and I'm a 2-hour non-expert on this topic. There's recharge and runoff.
Mhm.
And there couldn't have been a lot of recharge there to start with, and there must have been a thinner runoff.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
you say it's gonna get more recharge
Yes.
and less runoff. But the odd thing to me is that by redirecting all the water from the roof and the parking, and the swale that's going up near the end of the driveway, and down the driveway, and everything goes out DP1, that's added to the street. The only way I can imagine that there's less runoff is if the BMPs never saturate, which you already said, that in fact they do saturate and they just go out into the street. So how can it possibly be the case that there's less discharge in a 100 or 10-year storm?
So
Where does it go?
so for, say, the 2-year storm, we capture everything for the roof for our with our chamber system. So that captures that. So in the 2-year storm, you would have less runoff going down. In the 2-year storm, we would have all the water collected in the detention basin. So we do have these BMPs that are used to slow down rates, and then that's kind of outlined in our HydroCAD model. If you want, we can talk about it more, but we set up these BMPs, like you said, we don't have any infiltration. We're building up like 4 or 5 feet just to create some type of recharge system, just to meet Mass Stormwater regs.
What is BMP?
that's
Uh,
man.
That's management practice.
You gotta read this stuff, man.
You guys jumped on that quick.
It's stuff they put in to hold the water.
To meet specifications.
So yeah, they're just tools outlined by the Mass Stormwater Handbook to improve water quality, infiltration, recharge, and detention also, so.
And, you know, there's the redirection, which I know you're making a lot of friends here. The more that used to go to the west neighbor, it's all going out into the street.
I would say it's all going out
Well,
on the street. We have the
bunch
detention
of it.
basin, we have permeable pavers, so. Like I said, we modeled this with a very conservative curb number based on the stormwater management permit. So we assumed that this whole site was a dense wooded, I don't know, I don't have the term right in front of me for the curb number, but it's a wooded area. And it's really not, it's all ledge face, and
Yeah,
then
that's
we're
what-
still
well, I don't
meeting P
understand
rates with that.
That part, I would think if you assume it was all rock, there wouldn't be any recharge and there'd be all runoff.
That's why we're building up 5 feet for
I
recharge.
think what he's saying is he's assuming that the pre-construction conditions are wooded, therefore less runoff. And therefore you have to meet that,
Yeah, okay.
that condition that has less runoff.
Okay, but the thing is, there's a lot of assumptions in here, and
That's a
the
very
folks who say there was a ton
conservative
of runoff and it's a big problem for them.
I have the HydroCAD calcs with saying that
so-
we reduced the volume.
Okay, we're not gonna.
Is that just,
so-
is it a valid assumption? That's all I'm asking.
I think that is how, and our DPW is actually the ones who look at our engineers do look at the calcs and the, but, you know, that's, we don't need to get back and forth on that, whether it's the right thing that our, Nate and Chuck will look at that.
So everything, if I can ask the committee a question, everything that goes into the street, does the town know if it's a problem?
So water naturally
Or
goes into
you're
the street right
saying that
now.
all your engineering says you being a good citizen is putting less into the street.
Yes,
And importantly, that follows all the rules.
yes.
So what happens when there's too much in the street?
No, I'm telling you, there's less in the street by our design.
Well, nonetheless, if there were too much in the street, whose problem is that?
The towns,
Yeah, DPW.
we have to come and fix the drain. And that's why they go down into each drain every spring
Yeah, it would
and
be state road, yeah.
pull all that stuff out.
127.
Well,
It's a state
It's
road.
a state highway,
State road.
that's right.
Just a state.
Yeah, I guess maybe to your point, it would be worthwhile for Chuck and the town who are doing that review of the stormwater, that the assumption of what the land was as wooded is valid.
right,
And,
Yeah.
yeah,
and
that's,
I
that's,
think follow up on
that's their
the,
question.
that homestead system is probably a worthwhile activity.
Yeah, that's probably hard because it's completely undocumented, I would imagine.
Yeah,
May
right,
not,
one of them.
may
Scope
not be
it.
any part of that system on this part property, because the letter talks about other properties.
I
So-
see.
And so there may not have been any sort of system on here. So it could have been elsewhere. The other
You
thing
just go
is.
buy it or whatever.
Right, and
Okay.
the other thing, by using the base of a wooded area as opposed to ledge, he has to meet that higher standard for
Volume and peak rates.
meeting volume and peak. If he said, oh, well, this is ledge, and so you have a lot of
Oh,
runoff.
I get it. In other
So-
words,
Right, it's
it
the
was terrible
pre-construction.
and all it has to be
Yeah.
is terrible again.
He wouldn't have to do, he wouldn't have
That's
to
what I
do
didn't
half of this
understand.
stuff, that's
Right,
right, so.
And it's saying not much runs off because it's taken up by the trees,
Yeah.
and we have to meet that standard or exceed it. But
Thank you.
so that's why he's saying it's conservative.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? If you wrote us a letter and you want to reiterate something, that's fine. Hopefully Cindy.
Cindy McDougal, 212 Somerset. Does the state have any say in any of this? It's a state highway. Every time I've gone to town hall, they've said, oh, you have to talk to the state about that.
We've applied for a DOT access permit So
That was
very
applied for a while ago, right?
and approved, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
But they did not, you didn't do anything in regards to that then.
We applied for the curb
Curb
cut
cut
and
on the
utilities.
sidewalk.
Yep. and
The
the
sidewalk
utilities.
was never cut, the curb,
Yeah, we haven't gotten that far into the site development yet.
but you took trucks over the state sidewalk. on
I
the
personally,
property.
no.
No, you didn't.
Actually, I drove my Tacoma over it, did not like it, but. No, I understand, yeah, no, it's, we definitely, it's a part of our scope to make that curb cut and actually build our driveway up into that lot, yes.
And did the state look at the drainage calculations for the driveway as well as part of that?
No, not really, no. They were more concerned about the grading, ADA compliance along the roadway. Their specs for sidewalks and granite curb, it was very cut and dry with them. Yeah, they very concerned about the right of way. And as long as we're not creating an additional discharge or more volume going to their system, they're okay with it. The first question they ask is, are you dumping more water in my catch basin? So,
Yeah, that was my question. I
yeah.
guess.
No, our goal, like I said, it's matching the existing condition. We're trying to reduce volume and peak rates. And I think we're doing a really good job with collecting all the roof runoff. It's clean water, we can infiltrate. And then the detention basin, it's not the best system, but we're considering very shallow ledge. So it's something that we think we might be able to plant and then kind of help improve the site that way. And it's a low impact BMP.
Just coming back to the comments by Matthew and Elizabeth Spring, in terms of the question about material being put on a site other than the site in question, I think that's a question for whoever owns adjacent land and the building inspector. That would not be something that we would take up. Sort of, we're not the enforcement agent. So if there's material being placed on someone else's land.
This would be the McLaughlin land presumably?
I'm not sure, but I think it's not something that we would take, that we can solve.
So I can address that real quick. So the McLaughlins recently sold the lot to the Leland family. Sorry, Brian, I don't remember your daughter's name, but Brian's doing the work for them. So they're aware of anything that's on their lot. Her father's doing the site work.
Okay, well,
But it is something, if it is an issue, material can be moved off of their lot. We don't have any interest in using that property. That's their property. I think they use it for frontage to Summer Street, so it's not like it's gonna be removed, or it's not in our scope of, developing.
yeah. The other thing that's not in our scope, one of the letters asked about whether there were plans for future subdivision of land, and that's not something we have before us, so we can't.
I don't think there's enough in the lot. The lot's 1.5 acres and you need 45,000 square feet, so there's enough.
Well, I think the letter writer was saying that she might have a plan.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah,
might
she
have
did say
an
that.
adverse impact on her.
Okay, sorry, yes, I.
Yeah.
But one of the others did ask if there was that as well, I think. But anyway, clarification regarding future access on the proposed lot.
That's another question.
Okay, yeah.
Ted Snyder, so 225 Summer, read our letter. But just to reiterate, I think with the water, like if there is a single point where water is going onto Summer Street, if you drove on Summer Street last night during the rain, or probably right now, you'll notice the water ponds up there just below, so on the sort of lower right of the graphic. So is there any way to tie into the storm drains directly? Putting a lot more, we have concerns about having a lot more water, even more water going to Summer Street. It's caused issues for us and for, also for Tom.
Can you just
Again,
point
sorry,
on
we're right across the street.
where you're concerned? Don't touch the screen because it will mess up the screen. But just.
So we're here.
Okay.
Here's your driveway, I think.
The water tends to pond at this low point. There's a storm drain right around here in the Springs driveway. Next to the Springs driveway, there's a lot of water that comes down there. And then the water goes this direction on Summer Street. So there's a storm drain there.
And the catch basin that you're gonna tie into, Tom, is
Right
where?
here. So it's gonna catch the swale
I'd assume that.
going to the the western abutter.
but the road sloped this way.
It's the other way.
To the
Water
right.
flows the other way.
But I think it must,
There's a crest somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
because the crest is on the right side of,
Yeah,
at
water
the bottom
flows
right of the screen.
this way.
Yeah, it peaks right here.
And so your
Yeah.
There it is.
drainage off this
And it
lot
starts to go
goes
back.
to the left
Yeah.
toward the railroad tracks and the wetland down below.
it looks like the high point's actually
Right in the far left-hand corner.
So it must crest and then.
Yeah, it does crest and it creates a little bit.
So I think, Mark, we can't, existing drainage puddling on Summer Street
Yeah,
is
you
not
can't
anything
make them.
except to make sure that the stormwater plan is sufficient to not increase runoff on Summer Street.
And I would love to tie into a DOT catch basin, but like I said, the first question they said, you're not tying into our catch basin, are you? So they don't like that, because they have their own sizing calcs and they have their own system size, so it's
You
predominantly.
are
has to
going
stay on
into
site.
their catch basin on the other side.
Yeah, but this is, we're not adding flow to it, we're not,
Yeah,
we're
I
not,
suppose you're adding less
Yeah.
flow.
this, you can kind of see with the existing condition. The grading just wants to go this way
Mhm.
into their property, which,
Right.
you know, we've heard their voice on that and they've said they've had a lot of water issues, so it was definitely a critical part of our design.
Okay, and so and just to be clear, the design now is proposing a swale between the McDougal's property and this
Yes.
property that we hope will
Intercept,
deal with both the overflow from those basins, because it's gonna essentially create a dam, but, and because everything is, they're at sort of the low point from everything up the hill. So at least the water coming off of 214 will not be worse.
yeah. And as you can see, like, here's a high point at the top of the hill. There's two peaks. There's one here and up here.
Oh, let's, yeah.
So those two peaks, water from there, because I did a drainage study for this and it was submitted to Chuck Dam, or LiDAR was, and it just flows down into that property.
Where's the edge
So
of the
we
street?
found if we were able to,
Let's listen to what he has to say.
if we were able to split the flow with our design and get it into our systems, then we were able to reduce the volume, help the neighbor, and hopefully help the neighbor across the street. We would hope that would help you, is if we can reduce volume going to your house, we feel that helps you a little bit. Now, torrential downpours, if you're seeing flooding there, our systems do bubble up when they fill up with water, but we're holding back that volume. And our systems aren't blowing out of the water according to our models. They're holding water a good amount, and they're like the detention pond at the bottom, it's a broad crested weir, so the water kind of just topples over slowly versus creating a single discharge point and just washing out.
Is it like a
So
rain
if I-
garden or something that you're?
Yeah,
doing?
it kind of utilizes a rain garden.
Because we have rain gardens in our property
Yeah.
and we're very familiar with drainage technology. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, what's your name?
Emily Snyder, 225 Summer Street. Just a few additional questions.
Mhm.
I know we're looking at pre-construction, post-construction net, but we're also concerned about what's gonna unfold in between that
Yes.
delta.
Yep.
And what is the stormwater mitigation for that? What does that look like? Because I looked through the 100 pages and it's still very confusing to me.
Yeah, so
If you could elaborate on that a little bit more and what calculations or, because, you know, we do have some intel
Mhm.
living in this community and that DP1 or that catch basin does flow to the wetland and it overflows. It can't absorb, I don't know if the DPW needs to do another study, but we're just concerned that if that's not cleared off by the contractor consistently,
Yeah.
like it's not gonna.
yeah, 100%. So
And, yeah.
one of the big requirements for the stormwater management permit is providing a erosion control plan. So this is kind of what you see here, where we kind of wrap the lower part of the site. So all the water flowing through is gonna have to go through straw wattle and silt fence. So that's gonna prevent any type of sediment going into the property. We're also proposing construction entrance. So once we get our curb cut, we can get the sediment off the wheels of the trucks, and that will take care of that. Regarding calculations for for while the site is being developed. We haven't done any type of calculation for that. We do suggest doing loam and seed in areas that are not being disturbed or work's not being done to cut down on sediment. Loam and seed's really good, so when you get the grass, it gives it a lower curve number, and then the water isn't gonna go down the site as it really does originally. So it'd be good to get some grass there anyways, I agree. And then also, I don't know if you've got access to our stormwater report. We do have a section where we list out the steps that they need to take. It should be also in here. So these are the steps that we provide. It's basically setting up your erosion controls, your straw wattle, your silt fence, and it gives the contractor a step-by-step. Also, we show checking silt sacks and catch basins on the street, because you don't want those, if those fill up, then that would be an item that would be overflowing the property, so.
But I think their question is not about silt control, it's about volume. Because that's the.
It's kind of one and the same, whereas loam and seed, if you have grass, if you're grassed hillside, it's gonna slow the volume down much more. If you have a catch basin that's full of sediment, then you're not gonna be using that catch basin. So these erosion controls that we're presenting or proposing, we're hoping that those help reduce the rates going towards the home.
Would that berm be constructed right away?
I believe Brian can speak to this better than I can, but I believe the driveway is the initial thing that has to be constructed. So that berm that's on the side of the driveway, that could be constructed.
I'm
And
thinking
then
about
maybe
the
the
berm on the
drainage
neighbor's
swale,
property.
yeah, the drainage swale, so that could be something that we look at doing.
Yeah.
First.
Okay.
Sarah, I have just one
Yeah, go ahead.
question here. So, just for clarity, we're talking we are actually not talking numbers.
No, we're not.
talking about quantities here.
Yeah.
Could you give me just, I'm looking at your charts here, and I think I understand, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
The runoff today, whatever that is that quantified?
Runoff today.
And your predicted runoff in the future, is that quantified? So we can have an understanding what the relative difference would be?
Yeah, so where we get our runoff numbers is through Atlas 14. So that's there's the 2-year, 10-year, 20, 25, 100-year storms.
Yeah.
So each one is, likelihood to happen in how many years. So 1 in 100 years, your 100-year storm, that's where you get 8 inches
This
of
is
rain.
all theoretical.
It's all
We
theoretical,
need
but
something
people
that-
smarter than me come up with these numbers, and that's how we do our design based on the Stormwater Handbook. Is we pull those numbers, and then we design our I don't want to keep saying BMPs because I got ragged on for it, but our infiltration basin, our infiltration chambers, and our detention pond. So we take those NOAA numbers, and they're the up-to-date ones. I have had projects. I know my cell signaling project they designed for a larger storm because they were very conservative with their drainage
Did we
design.
know that one well?
No, I don't think he's on that one, but anyway, go on.
I
Keep
believe in your materials here, it shows that you're below current in all cases
Using the
of your
conservative
model. Yeah.
existing model. So that's what I was trying to get at is like the town does a great job to make sure we're not cutting corners on this one. Some engineer would walk the site and be like, oh, ledge everywhere and try to get away with one, whereas we're really trying to focus on just improving the site, helping the neighbors across the street to the west. The guy uphill doesn't have as much issues because all his water comes down to our site and to the neighbors, so.
So I have another issue, so we've talked a lot about water. The question about, I think about your construction process with water is important. But you gotta get from here to there and there's a lot of ledge. So there are hours at which you can move rock and they start not before 8 on construction. So that's, and then maybe, I'd like to hear input from the public about the rock removal, how we might help, is it better to have a couple of big blasts that
I
work?
agree, yeah.
And then be done with it, and where you want the track drilling, And John, maybe you can help me.
Is it better to
It's better-
hammer from 9 to 5?
Right, or to.
Or
That's not
from,
1 to 2.
yeah, or just from 1 to 2 and go for 3 years?
Yeah,
It's something that I can coordinate with the site contractor and see what he would like.
right, well, I'm wondering how we can be responsive to, this is the time for the public to give us input that we can.
Is there a way to estimate how many blasts might be needed?
Fortunately, that's not my cup of tea.
Yeah. I think that would be
Yeah,
a helpful
But that,
thing.
I agree that, I don't know,
I
Brian,
mean, I
you
lived
had
next to
any
a
thought on
crack mill
this?
for 2 years.
I'm Brian Harvey. I spoke with the blaster. He expected to be there for a month. The hammer people said a month. Maybe have to finish up blasting. He's not 100% sure he can do what we are. He has a big machine, and so I'll believe it when I see it, but he tells me he can hammer it. So I think most people prefer hammering, no chemicals, so hammering is, I think, the most green way to go. And they both talked about a month, so I'll believe it when I see it.
And what month of the year are you thinking?
Well, as soon as possible. Obviously, you have to wait for the stormwater management plan to be approved by Chuck, but
Okay. Input on that topic, Cindy?
So we're a little tainted in the neighborhood by blasting and hammering because we already had that a little bit. And so it was pretty bad in my house. It was really bad in my house, actually, for the blasting that was on the hill.
Mhm.
And it went on for months.
That was at 208 Summer Street?
Yes, and that was way further back. So I've had some jackhammering going on by Mr. Harvey. And I have an autistic grandson who was very upset. So it's a concern for me, the noise level and the shaking of the house.
We are directly across, and even though we weren't in the purview of the blast, and we didn't it wasn't warranted to do we still felt the blast from 208. So of course, with blasting or hammering, we have 2 young children as well, and we've already been subjected to noise and witnessing things, as I've said in the letter. That's why we're a little concerned about the last 2 years of what's been folded, and the communication and collaboration, we have always been open to. So we appreciate this information today because this is more than we've gotten. And this is very helpful for us to have some context. I guess I wish I could say, blasting or drilling, we're not surprised based on the property. Again, house fitting a property versus property fitting a house. I think this is what it's coming down to, sadly. Anyway, sorry.
Does our ordinance currently have a time period of the day, like
It's
between?
the general bylaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's for 8 to,
8 to
the
5.
big one for the contractors can't start before 8.
yeah.
And that is
Any
enforced by the police.
construction?
Right,
Yeah.
but in the cell signaling, I believe we had blasting hours that were shorter than that.
But that
Or,
was-
yeah,
That was
and
after they had started already.
Yeah, hammer drilling hours that were later than that, I believe. We'd have to go back and look. So I think we can, reasonable.
Would it be helpful to have a schedule published?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, is it something we could coordinate and just, not like a butters notice, but an abutters notice for neighbors on a schedule?
Yeah,
Because obviously Brian's gonna coordinate someone for a week. Well, he's gonna know that week. It could be something we could share with the neighbors.
yeah.
Here are our times, and maybe we can just try to, help each other out, I think it would be best to provide that information.
Yeah. Like our road town communications. John, you had a comment on that?
No, I was just gonna mention that, the way things are, unfortunately, most of the easy sites are built on
Yeah.
And what's remaining are the hard sites. This is a hard site, as evidenced by what you guys are doing to try and mitigate, you know, the height and the driveway and the drainage and all that. I think you're doing a lot. I mean, it's a very expensive site to work on. But I think any coordination that you guys can do with the neighbors, I mean, having seen the site, knowing you guys are gonna have a basement, there's gonna be a lot to do.
Mr. McDougall, go ahead.
Hi, I'll try and condense my concerns. My name is Dave McDougall, I live at 212 Summer Street. Our house is right about here. Up here on the right, on the left side of our house is a mole. Okay, so years ago, when they built the house down below, they didn't have electricity, so they had to put floating pipes in to divert the water away. And we moved here in 1955, and there were never any problems with water until a gentleman named John Karras bought the property at 216, I think. And there's a small little, used to be a small little, I don't know what you call it, pond or whatever. And they dug it out. And this was prior to the restrictions, which I was told there's nothing we could do about it. Now, and they took all the soil and they filled a quarter of that knoll above our house
Is
with the
that the
hill.
vernal pool now?
And now the water has no place to go. And it just pours down on that.
Oh, did I confuse you, sorry?
Yeah. I think our house is here.
Yes.
It just pours right down here. So what we had to do is we had to dig a trench to divert the water. And this, again, this is all solid ledge. All solid ledge. Right? And this topsoil was taken off, which makes it worse. And the water just pours down. We lost 2 furnaces and 3 hot water heaters in a number of years. And when I approached the contractor, I was told, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. Well, I do worry about it, because it's all solid ledge. And you say, well, we have this technology, we can do this, we can plan this. You can't. I mean, you can, on paper, it looks like you can divert the water, but you don't know. It's solid ledge, the whole thing. This area over here is a mole, a lowland area. And the water just pours right down there. And when I approached people from your company, and it perks, it's okay. Well, I'm not willing to take that chance because I don't want to put more money into the property. And if you just stop to think about it for a second, the whole area is solid ledge. And when you take the topsoil off, the water that comes down is gonna increase. And these people that live across the street, they've had a lot of issues with their property as a result of water coming down. And, you know, again, you could say, this is what we have in mind, this is what we're going to do. But you don't really know that. when you take the topsoil off and you have all that ledge, the water's going to work its way out, the easiest point of less resistance. And that's what I wanted to bring up,
Okay, thank you
just
very
for
much.
consideration.
I think one of the challenges for us is that we are limited in what our tools are to the construction plan. Unfortunately, I don't think we can't say no to the house, we just can't unfortunately say no. I think that would be a appeal we would lose, unfortunately. I mean, that would not be in the town's
Thank you.
interest, but we will, in following up from Mr. McDougal, you have the perk sites,
Mhm.
and you have a very steep slope away from them at the corner of his property?
Yep.
Is that disturbed, or are you touching that at all?
That's filling right here. This is fill.
So you're making a grade toward his property there, can that swale be extended up higher?
That's a 2-to-1 slope, so that would be very difficult without, you'd have to make the wall higher. What I see is yes, water diverts in this direction, and there is already water going towards his house. We're just trying to intercept it, have it go around the garage, and then we're also trying to capture it in the swale. So yeah, water's still going to Mr. McDougal's house, but I'd say a substantial amount of water is being deviated away from it.
I guess, is there a way to create a berm or at the bottom of that 2-to-1 slope? Some sort of a diversion.
Deflection, so it, just gets it to the next berm.
It gets it to the next.
You could lay like a level spreader right across it, like a piece of curb, and just push it down, but I don't see anything grading wise that you could do within that 2-to-1 slope area, other than.
When you get to it, like you say, like a dam.
Yeah, it's a curb.
So what you're proposing, what Mr. McDougal just described, is it looks like that water historically has entered his property above the berm that you're building.
Yes, he said it started when there was work done on.
But you're not doing anything to mitigate that flow. You're just hoping, you can't because of the slope up there, right? So.
I thought he mentioned 216 was where the issue started. 216 Summer Street was where you started having issues. It wasn't from our site.
No, I know, but doesn't that, he was talking about water running through your site, maybe from 216.
Oh, yeah.
But it's.
So yeah, water running down this hill
right.
would come that way. But we're also pitching water away from it. Like, none of this water is going to the right of the garage right now currently. We're pitching
So that's
whole,
great, okay.
And
Yeah,
that's a whole portion of with the existing. Like I said, there's 2 peaks right here.
Yeah.
I wish I had my stormwater model because you could see where I pulled the LiDAR. All of this water comes down.
Could you pull up the existing drawing? It's your EX sheet.
Oh, EX sheet?
Yeah.
Existing condition. Oh, so you do have it.
You can see it really clearly on that.
I don't have it. Let me see if I can stop sharing. I'll see if I can get it.
And there's a little path. There's a trail that goes up through the woods there. Is that?
Yes, you can walk to the vernal pool.
Is that basically where the water flows? It looks like it's based on the topography.
It's a river or stream or something.
Yeah.
John, you talking about this? That's what you're talking about?
Because if you look at that, how it goes up, here's the peak, one peak, here's the second peak. And this guy runs right through. It's almost like could be the bed of the stream. Probably.
However, the grading is significantly different now.
Yes, but what's kind of interesting is where there's a trail, right, coming down, and it's now ending in this. So I wonder if there's a way, drainage-wise, whatever you're capturing, to capture it at this point and send it down to
That's
one
what I
of
was
the
wondering.
systems.
Okay, so I think we have some work that needs, things that need to be
Complicated.
still hammered out. One other thing I just wanted to point out from the comments that I read, the question of safety on the road, that would be between again, that's not our jurisdiction. So if you have questions about the road being blocked, or that's a police matter. If it is, let me ask the contractor, do you anticipate being able to store all your vehicles and material on the site and not block the road, or is there gonna be a frequent need for detail?
It shouldn't be a frequent need. We have access to the property now enough to get small vehicles up in. As soon as we're able to get started hammering, first process will be to get the driveway cut in and, get everything off the street.
Okay.
I couldn't get it up, I'm
If I
sorry.
could add that
But yeah, if you wanna talk about it, we can.
Yeah.
not having a spotter is very dangerous from my perspective because of the crest of the hill, people can't see oncoming and exiting traffic.
Okay. So we have that issue, potentially a coordination with the police, hours of work, the input from the DPW on the storm drainage, and we would be thinking about the hours of the drilling predominantly.
And the communication plan.
And then the communication plan. So a couple of those things, predominantly, it's gonna be you talking to Chuck and Nate, and coordinating a response with Mark. So what I'm gonna suggest is that we continue this public hearing to our next meeting, which is when? July 13th, at, I think we can do that at 6:30. So I'll take a motion to continue the public hearing for 214 Summer Street to July 13th at 6:30 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for coming and for sending us letters in advance. They will get in the record for the application. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Okay. Our next public hearing is Sarah's So, some of us had the paper copies, they were down in the,
Sarah.
office.
To add to your list, if I may, we never really got a good, clear answer about how to monitor the modeling results are correct.
actually have
And that's
that
what
with someone's guarantee.
Yeah.
So not only that, but they've got the list, they've got an extensive monitoring process.
The problem is
I know.
it's so what and who follows up on it, which
Exactly.
is a larger town problem.
Yes,
Right.
yes, the whole enforcement.
Yeah.
But it's all right there,
Yes,
everything.
and there's the reconstruction.
Everything.
Yeah.
They really thought of everything.
Oh, so you're looking for a hat?
You can take marks.
Let's see.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
You're not done yet.
Really?
Okay, we'll talk about that in the, let's open I'll take a motion to open the public hearing for proposed changes to the existing regulations and to update the review procedures and driveway standards for public safety access, commercial driveways, and general design standards. So a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Okay.
I need some.
Oh. Copies if anybody wants to. All right, Nate and Chuck, you can't shut the door. They just have to move.
downstairs.
It's the same, it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi Nate and Chuck, thanks for sticking with us on that last one. We have had this draft for quite some time. The only comment that I have received on it in terms of written comments was one from John Carlson, who had indicated at town meeting that the fact that the driveway rules were quite strict in the general bylaw was something he was in favor of. So I sent him this draft and he commented that there were two omissions. One was line of sight regulations, and I think that is in here. And the second one is that there's no recommendation on how close a driveway can be to an intersection. I also think that's in here. So I think he, anyway, I don't know if there are any, I don't see anybody on here who might not be familiar with the rules. Do we need to summarize them at all, Mark, or can we just get any comment?
You can do it any way you want, as long as you allow for public comment.
Yeah.
And if there is no public, then it's just
Any-
your discussion amongst yourself.
So any comments? We've sort of had these around for a while. If we want, we can chug through them, or we can just, anybody have any comment?
Have the fire folks give their opinion about the width of the driveways?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so, just because you weren't here last summer, I worked with Nate and Chuck and the fire chief in kind of going through this and the bylaw as well, which was voted at town meeting.
Can you open the doors for legal counsel?
Just leave one open. To make changes to this, so it was a collaborative process, we'd like to say.
And we can, because it's regulations, we can
change
it again.
Yeah, so if something's not working, or we still feel that after, a year or two, we want to give more authority to Public Works, or, or not, you can make changes at that time.
The only question is the first paragraph, all driveway entrances that are in existence or have been approved prior to June 15th, 2023. It probably should be June 22nd, 2026 at this point, right?
Well, this was the date that you had for
the authority.
The first adoption of this. Remember, this was first approved in January 8th of 24, which is why it has a 23 adoption date, because that was probably when you went to town meeting that year.
Okay.
So does that mean that someone who put in a driveway in 2024
right.
has to be subject to this?
It seems like that's kind of silly.
How would that work? No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay, so
I think
we
it should
can,
be today's
we
date.
can do it today. Yep. So that would be June 22nd.
Okay. I guess my only concern with this is that we're almost swinging the pendulum the other way. When Laura was here, she argued very ferociously for very small driveway openings. One, we clearly didn't have an appeal process or an exemptions process, which was a problem. But this is sort of a little bit bigger driveways, and the fire department wanting to have truck turnarounds and those kinds of things. So we kind of have swung the other way, a little bit more.
I would argue you haven't really swung that far.
Okay, good.
That these adjustments to 2 feet for the roadway pavement width and
Okay, so you're
a
comfortable
little
with
bit
it.
more, and having a second allowing a loop driveway, which actually is safer, not less safe. You know, I would
Okay.
completely disagree with her on that issue.
Oh, you're disagreeing with me, not.
And, you know, and there's, so we really haven't changed that many things here.
Okay. What we've added for sure is an appeals process. And Nate or Chuck, any comments? I haven't seen Nate on the driveway regulations.
No, I think, you know, we've gone over with Mark and Jake pretty extensively, so I think we're good with it right now.
Okay. And there's an application on the website, Bill?
Yeah, I think we have one developed, it's just not live, so once we go live with it, we'll go through OpenGov.
Okay. Any comments?
Can I make a motion to approve these regulations?
So moved.
Wait a minute, let me make sure there's no public comment. Okay, no public comment. Wait, John has a comment.
Oh, sorry, just a quick note, page 2, paragraph C, just so I understand. I'm like halfway through the paragraph. For driveways more than 100 feet in length, minimum width of 12 feet, and be clear of obstructions
Above,
20 feet wide and 13 feet tall. Okay, so
like bushes and things like
got it.
that.
To the left and right, and then 13 feet above. Okay.
Yeah, that's the fire
That-
department.
That's-
Yeah, they have to drive all the way down if it's a long driveway, as opposed to just parking the trucks in front and fighting from the street.
Okay.
All right, we have a
Okay.
motion.
I'm gonna approve that.
Second.
Motion, oh,
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent, that was quick. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
And you guys are gonna look at this 214 Summer Street carefully, right? See what else we can
Yep.
do for the
Yep.
neighbors.
Yep, it's with our consultant right now, and we'll get with him on an initial review and then catch up with Hancock after that.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Okay, great. Update on the housing production plan, Mark.
Well, we had our 2 nights last week. Our consultant Karen Sonnenberg met with the Housing Trust to get their feedback, being kind of our local housing group. And so she talked to them, had an extensive discussion with them, and then we had our public forum the next night. And so now, based on the comments that she received from both evenings, she's gonna kind of begin to put the plan portion in place, so that, because at first she did all the technical information and data that needed to get updated. So we should have a draft by we'll have an draft of the next section by our next meeting on the 13th, and then we'll have a complete draft at the end of the month. So we could, if everyone's good with the draft and the recommendations, vote at the end of July to forward it to the select board. The planning board has to do that first, then it goes to the select board, and then they have to vote to submit it to the state for its review. And so that's where we're at.
Okay.
Mark, was the forum well attended?
We had about 10 people in total, including Sarah and Chris.
Hopefully it's online, because it was actually, I thought it was quite good, I learned stuff.
yeah, it was an
And,
interesting discussion.
we were able to have kind of a free flow discussion about, well, what happens if X, what happens if Y, what happens?
There's a recording of it, right?
There is a recording.
So
It's not on the
one of the
website.
big issues was,
At least I couldn't
the
find
problem with doing small affordable housing projects is the cost of monitoring and compliance.
Yeah.
And is there some way to make that
I think it's on the planning board.
a service that the town can somehow provide to small developers?
Because I need to.
Well, not so much the town, but there'd be a regional
So
approach.
there could be a regional
Yeah,
approach to doing
or
this.
whether, the MAPC provides that service, or, EOHLC provides that service, but individual towns, it's really, burdensome, or really, they don't have the expertise, even if they have a planner like me. I don't have that kind of expertise, that's a very niche kind of thing. And the same thing, as far as the costs go, there was some discussion, quite a bit of discussion about the cost that's incurred by the owner of the property to do all of the things, prepare all the documents, and get them submitted to the state. There's numerous things, and there's a very significant cost that is incurred by the developer, and is there a way of doing, so these are really more big policy questions that really need to go kind of up the ladder at the state, and maybe they can, you have 40B and you have the 40B process, but maybe you have, a similar but slightly simplified, let's say, process for small projects, like a small 40B. Little.
There's also, I'm gonna mention this because I asked the question, what about Gordon College? Should the housing production plan inform Gordon College and their development? And Karen said, well, a copy of the plan should be provided to Gordon College and the developer so they can see what the town's desires and needs are. So I thought that was an interesting response.
So the question about the small affordable projects and someone supporting all the stuff that goes with an affordable unit, would that mean like if we have units here in town that are about at the right price point, but they're owned by one person here, one person there, and they're not counted in our affordable housing,
Right.
that might be a means of collecting all of those kind of together into a group that might be considered affordable?
Well, so I think the idea is more that if a bunch of towns all got together and each put up $10,000 a year, and together they could amass enough money to hire a professional housing services coordinator who could then handle all those lotteries and things that are needed for each of these projects.
Or if there were groups that existed that already did that.
Apparently there are in other parts of the state, but not in our town. So it's gonna be having to put something together, but.
Because I know like the North Shore CDC, for example, they're looking for more units, but it's very inefficient to do one.
Yeah.
But if they already exist, and it's just management of them.
Well, apparently the just management is onerous.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that kept coming up. So the solution was perhaps to pool resources for someone to help do the marketing plan for that 2 units here and 1 unit there and that kind of thing. So that was,
The whole Powder House Apartments debacle was an
Right.
example of that playing out in front of us.
I just sent you all I found the forum.
The recording.
The recording, it wasn't.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
So you can kind of skim through it.
Can I ask just one question to Craig? What was, you had the question about including Gordon into the, good name, by the way, into the thing. What was your preference be?
Oh, I think that the housing production plan should be dictating the.
What happened?
Should be
Gordon College.
dictating,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely should be.
Mm-hmm.
It's a statement of what the town wants.
Right.
We may not get it necessarily, but at least we should, make it clear.
Yes, some people were pointed out the fact that, the housing production plan identifies certain types of housing that are needed, but it doesn't say we need more luxury housing. But what the Gordon College current plan, the developer builds is luxury housing. So although there are affordable units in there but But still, that was also pointed out, the affordable price point, because you're working in the Boston market area, so 80% of that is
Pretty high.
higher than a lot of the rents for similar apartments scattered that are in the community already. So,
Can I go off tangent a little bit on this, and address Lorraine Giovanni's?
She's on my list, and I was just gonna ask.
Well, this is a good time to, because she, in her letter, is arguing that it should be a senior retirement community, essentially, CCRC, a low-impact CCRC. And I would like to, I've been wanting to respond to her, but I can't do it individually, but within the context of this meeting, I think we can. And tell her that we'd love to see a CCRC there, it's just not it's not gonna be our call,
We
unfortunately.
can't dictate it.
Yeah,
Right, it's a private.
you've set the zoning in place, so it can be done zoning wise, but if,
Well, it could be a
Very-
a narrow piece, but it
Sure.
also, if it's a, if it's a philanthropic, well, we cut that out.
It's the developers.
if
developers
it's a between, and if the developer's proposing a 40B, a friendly 40B, that's the select board that's gonna make those decisions. They may ask for our advice or opinion, but
Does that zone allow senior housing?
yeah, it does.
So they could by right.
Not by right, they have to get a special permit, but they could propose it.
So she has written to us 3 times, so
Yeah.
we should respond. I was gonna suggest maybe Mark draft a response or.
All about the same thing, basically,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
But
it's all the
that's
same
what-
thing.
Well, it's about that, and it's also about the 5,500, about the luxury townhouse thing.
Right. So do you mind, or maybe the 2 of you work together, just do it?
Yeah, sure, I can.
If you wanna respond to her on behalf of the board, that's
Well,
fine.
okay,
Or maybe coordinate with Mark.
yeah, I'll
That's
send a
great,
draft.
yeah, good,
okay.
thank you.
Just one clarification, does the CCRC though, is it permitted under the senior housing things? Because it's not exactly, right?
Well, it's
It's
not
more of
exact, I don't think she exactly understands what a CCRC is anyway. And that can be part of the responses. But I think the idea of a senior housing with an assisted living component, yeah, that could be done under
The other thing too is, I mean, I would think that if we, the town, thought a continuing care facility was a better option than, 285 units, of which 75% are luxury housing, my guess is we could do a zoning change.
Yeah.
That's what you do to work with somebody, right? Is you say, well, maybe
Yes.
that's in the LCD, an appropriate kind of thing, and that's what working with somebody means. But there's obviously a purchase and sale or some sort of agreement for a price, and we're not party to that
Yeah.
deal in any way.
Yeah,
And we're
in
not-
fact, the selling price is what's driving the deal.
Well,
Essentially.
yeah, that is part of it, for sure. The other thing we talked about, going back to the housing production plan form, we talked a little bit about whether there was ways for the Affordable Housing Trust to buy down the first, in Gordon, in the case of the Gordon project, could you buy down
The density,
the density a little bit, or, which is,
I think that would be very questionable.
Yeah,
use of
right,
affordable
that's
housing.
probably-
We also talked about the fact that sounds like a lot of money what they have, but
They don't have
given the
enough here,
cost of
right.
what this project would
Yeah.
be to
Right.
construct, it's a tiny little, it won't really
right,
affect
What we could do
it
is
at all.
buy down the AMI limits to more affordable, but
Yeah.
it'd be peanuts.
okay. But we did have a good, and there was, the form had Jeff Delaney and John Round were here too, so.
Good.
So it was good, I thought. And I just sent you the link. Okay, great. The next item is, we have to annually, biannually, maybe it's triannually, I don't know. Annually appoint someone from the planning board to the CPC. What is it called? what's CPC stand for?
Community Preservation
Preservation Committee, which is well, why don't you describe what they do? Since
So-
you've been our rep.
Every year, the town can take a certain percentage of its tax base and allocate it to special projects. And the CPC allocates the funds to these various projects, and then it all gets approved at town meeting. So at the last town meeting, you might have heard, a lot of money went to the rotunda and a bunch of other things. Graveyard, fencing.
And it's limited to conservation,
There's-
housing,
there's
and
housing, conservation, and historical.
Does the state control that money distribution, no, correct? Not at all?
No, not at all. It's up to us.
So
Well,
we
but
collect
there
our
are,
own money and then
there
distribute
are
it?
state regulations as to how you can spend the money, but they
In
can't dictate what we spend it on.
in the early days, there was a significant contribution from the state, and that has dwindled to
Dwindled as more and more states, more and more towns
towns.
adopt it, so
Right.
it gets thinned out.
But in the early days, when we were one of the first adopters, we were able to get a larger chunk of the state's matching funds or whatever it is, but now it's
Do you have to
next to nothing.
commit the entire fund every year?
No.
Is there a minimum that needs to be distributed?
No.
Yes, yeah.
Well-
So you need to set aside 10%
For
of the funds in like a pool that you have to keep track of. Now, it doesn't mean you have to spend on it. So let's say you don't have any historic projects. You still have to set aside 10% for historic projects. So maybe what you want to do is you want to, let's say, not bond, and you want to pay cash, and you know you have an upcoming project, you might put that 10% aside for, let's say, 5 years, and then fund, a new roof or something for one of your historic town buildings, right? A bigger cost item.
Yeah.
So, but generally, this community, and then you can keep all the extra, once you set aside the 10, you can keep all the extra in an undesignated fund, which you would then might use for larger projects down the road, and then move it into whatever column, historic, housing, or the open space and recreation.
But ultimately, town meeting has to approve all these.
But town meeting has to approve it, and then, so here, because there's a lot of older things and historic and recreation needs that you've spent a lot of, usually don't have a big undesignated pool, so,
So the Crowell Chapel renovation, that was done with CPC.
There also has in the past been some portion of the funds gone to a project manager to oversee the actual construction. Maybe it's now more with DPW, but
If it's a DPW doing the project,
Yeah.
they oversee it. I don't think we actually pay for that, but
so.
there is an
for a while,
administrative, there's an
wasn't Woody
administrative.
paid for it?
They can set aside 5% for administrative costs, so they usually allocate the 5%, but don't spend much of it, and then it goes back into the undesignated pool, and then they reallocate another 5% every year. For construction management for a specific project, that should be in that project cost, not out of the admin, generally. That's how it should be.
Can also go to like athletic fields to pay for the
Recreation.
something for the turf, but not the site cost or
Yeah,
something weird like that.
Yeah, you can't pay for the artificial turf, so, but.
Community housing, historic preservation.
Yeah, there's certain things, there's some
You can't use it
cases.
for maintenance costs, it's gotta
Yeah,
be for
you can't
capital
use it for
expenses.
maintenance, right? But there are some various cases that kind of have restricted how, or designated how you can use the funds.
So there are 7 members. Jack Burke is the chair. Someone from the Historic Commission, somebody from the Affordable Housing Trust, someone from the Planning Board, someone from the library,
Parks and Rec, Muffin.
and someone from the Select Board. She represents the Select Board, I think. So I represent the Planning Board. I'm happy, if no one wants to do it, I will continue to do it. It's not a big.
So moved.
Bless you.
But there's a little problem. It's not a big problem, but 5 of the members are on the Affordable Housing Trust or on the CPC, so it's kind of a little bit of a self-dealing thing going on there. But
Given how much we need affordable housing, it's okay.
And we trust you, Chris.
well, I mean, if somebody else would like to do it, it's kind of fun.
How often do they meet?
They don't meet very often, and it's on Zoom, so it's not a big commitment. Most of the commitment is between November and February.
Yeah. And they're the ones they allocate the money or make a recommendation.
So they get applications, get sent to the CPC, and we go through them, and some we say that doesn't qualify, this we say, yeah, it's good, but we don't need that much money. This one, and there's always, 200,000 goes to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Yeah.
Except this year, when the rotunda blew up, the Affordable Housing Trust said, okay, we'll just take 100,000. So. But we may come back and want 300,000.
All right, well, I hear a nomination for Chris Olney for.
Second. Move.
Second.
Chris, do you want to do it?
I don't mind doing it.
Well then, all in favor?
I was sort of hoping that you would do it, Peter.
Next
Well,
year.
that's why I asked. I mean, sure, but sounds like you
Maybe you should look at, you let him know when some of the meetings are, and then next year you can pass.
Yeah,
pass
that's
the
a good
torch.
idea, yeah.
So.
When I resign from the planning board, it'll be fine.
No. We're getting some change. Okay, thank you. We need to, Isabel and Nancy didn't come tonight. We need to vote to approve the appointment of associate members Isabel Bates and Nancy Garvey. They were reappointed by the select board, so I'll take a motion to approve the appointments of our associate members.
So moved.
All in favor?
So should they have been here tonight?
Yeah, I did talk to Isabella, and so we need to just get better about telling them when they need to be here, when they don't need to be here.
So they'll need to be here on July 3rd.
Yeah, because especially in the summer, and we've got these things. Okay, discussion about the next steps in downtown and the general district work. So we didn't do our site walk tonight just because we didn't do our site walk. It was raining, and
Raining hard
I was
enough.
gonna try to do it on Google Earth, and I didn't have time to prepare. What I was gonna suggest is that we just sort of talk through the general district, and I don't have my other piece of paper. Does anybody have that other one from the other half of the general district?
So I have a general point, this is very obvious, but it didn't occur to me until just the other day, that the general district is essentially the state highway going through town. And the reason probably that was originally an Indian trail, and the main route from Beverly to Gloucester, and they built the town around this original roadway, and that's why it's got commercial uses, and that's why it's zoned as a general district.
Huh.
And School Street and Pine Street, which are also, main thoroughfares, weren't part of that, so they.
Right, they came after. School Street was definitely the original road through. So what do we do, pave it, turn it back to gravel?
We need a stagecoach in, maybe.
So one of the things I thought was interesting is the part we walked more or less was it's bounded by E along the coast, and then D along Pine Street, and then up at School Street, that's D.
That's D. And Norwood as well.
Norwood as well. So it's all bounded largely by D, and then a little.
By E.
well, an A, but
Yes.
now we've changed that to the Harbor's Edge district. So now the general district is bordered by E, D, Town Center and Harbor's Edge.
So I sort of thought about the idea of combining D and the general district, G district. Because the regulations are very similar, but we wouldn't allow commercial anymore along
School Street.
along Summer or Pine, or not Pine Bridge. Which
I was
would be a bad thing.
I was thinking more of combining the general district with the two new districts we just made. You know, I have a feeling like I just drew a diagram before we even began speaking about the general district. I wonder, I haven't done this, but I'd love to know how many people live in the general district
I was thinking that exact same thing today.
compared to how many people live in every other district. I think of it as a donut hole.
When you say people live, you mean single-family residences or
I
just
mean,
any resident?
anybody.
Any residential,
Any
anything?
residential.
Okay,
I think we actually did that as part of the MBTA thing.
yeah,
Well, we probably did properties, but not necessarily people.
no
No, we
units.
Bedrooms.
But,
They're units
Units.
in the
We counted-
database.
we
They're
counted
units.
So,
You think of it as as a
I would-
donut
I
hole,
think of it
meaning there's
as a
no one
donut
living
hole.
there?
That the density, where in any town you'd expect the density to be highest because of the apartments versus single-family homes perhaps, or the fact that you've got the proximity to the train, so you don't really need a car. All those factors that you'd imagine the density would be in the center. Our town is inverted, I believe. And that we have lots of single-family homes. And the center of our town is
I think there
quite.
are more units than you think.
Not so many, I think you're wrong
Not so
about that, actually. I think they're
That's
very.
my guess.
I mean, when we looked at the number of single-family homes in the two new districts, there were hardly any. Like one or two.
And then I would also look at it and say, historically, since our zoning began, how many projects has our zoning produced in the general district?
Not very many.
None.
I think one.
Cape Ann Savings, you
It's
said.
the bank, yeah. The other one was the 40B, which was actually done well.
Yeah,
But I think that's a flaw in our town that's probably a result, not intentionally, but a result of our zoning.
Do you really think it's a result of our zoning, or do you think it's just a result of the, we only have a few, I mean, we don't have that many we have one big landowners until recent, now we have two. But, so historically, one big and then, and that,
So
they were building, they were building prior to zoning, they must have been building prior to zoning.
John, I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you saying that really at the core of the town, the zoning allows too much single-family homes?
No, I'm saying that,
there aren't
like,
any.
why has it turned out the way it has, right? Actually, I could describe several opportunities that some clients of ours looked at and said, hey, we can buy this property, how many units can we put there? And we looked at it and we're like, wait, we're allowed 4.
Yeah, that's,
We're allowed 4 units,
Okay.
project debt,
And the desire,
one.
the desire was to have how many units?
as many as possible, but
Well-
more than 4.
Right, but in terms of within reason, in terms of what's around, in terms of density? 6, 8?
10, 6, 10, I don't know, but.
again, it depends on the property and
Sure.
the size and the location, and so
Absolutely.
it's not always, but I think getting to what we change is kind of down the road. I think what you really need to do, because we need to go through a process very similar to, I think, what you did for the downtown district, where right now we're just talking amongst ourselves, looking at these different areas, getting a sense of, because we have, this distinct area that we walked through last time, and then we have, the kind of distinct area directly across, what is it?
Morse Court.
Elm Street, Morris Court, that whole area, most of the little bit of School Street's already rezoned now, but then we have,
Norwood,
beyond the
Washington
downtown,
Street.
going up Washington, going up Norwood and Summer, and I think at the end of the day, there's some advantages to pushing the D in because it protects some of those neighborhoods like Norwood Street from commercial development, which you may not find desirable there, but you probably still want to allow some commercial development along Summer Street, up to Lincoln. So, you may want to split the neighborhood, but one of the problems with D is it only allows 2 units. So, while G allows 4. So, under certain conditions, not an automatic 4, but so again, these are all the things that we'll have to discuss as we go through the public process. So I think, I don't think we should, as a board, come to any decisions. I mean, you slowly begin to kind of figure out in your mind what you think in different areas as we go through it, where we may want to make adjustments. You may want to keep most of the G district as the G district, but adjust some of the rules. And so on and so forth, and maybe pull out a couple sections. You may want to create a new district, in one location or another. So. But I'd recommend that we keep talking about it for another meeting or two, maybe do another site walk or two, and then bring a consultant in to do the public visioning sessions like we did with the downtown, and then we can decide based on what we hear from the public whether we want extensive rezoning, because again, if we're talking about relatively minor stuff, that's stuff I can do, or I can do working with the consultant, just kind of putting drafts together, because I don't foresee big wholesale changes, but I think enough that, you want to at least get the public involved and get the public feedback. So, I think that's important, that was why you were so successful in all the last 3 town meetings.
But I think that for example, for me at least, the downtown zoning, whether we did it right or not, I could see the problem. I knew what the problem was that we were trying to solve.
It was a really obvious
It was
one.
an obvious problem, and Cargo came along and helped us make the case in, graphic detail, right? So the problem to me was we didn't require commercial on the first floor, and
things downtown could be raised and single family put up.
Right. I think it's really hard to know why any particular person who has invested in the past did what they did. I think unless you actually speak with them and really get, hindsight's always 20/20. It's a little bit hard to know why someone did or did not divest from a property or invest in a property. So I want to look forward to, maybe that can inform us, but in this general district look, to me, it's not yet obvious what problem we're trying to solve. I mean, John, your problem you'd like to see us solve is increased density.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% bought into that idea yet, but I really like the idea of knowing how many units we have in the G district compared to others, so we can maybe circle back to that.
We can do that. I think I'm kind of coming up a little bit with John on this one, because when we looked for the MBTA zoning, I was very surprised to learn that at the corner of School and is it Summer or Union there, there were 13 units. And there's an old building just up Union Street that has 9. You know, so why are we saying 4? You know, under what circumstances? And part of the process for that was taking people on a walk and saying, this is a 13-unit bit, that's what a 13-unit, because everybody's like, oh my God, it's gonna be Rantoul Street. And so I think there's a whole process of rethinking. I think it might have been you who just said it a moment ago, Sarah, about how things came to be, and saying, well, okay, it came to be before zoning.
Right, probably.
Right, and people like that, and they like the way it looks. And so how do we reproduce that? So that's one set of comments. Second set of comments is, I'm very glad to see everyone, at least in this little bit of discussion, talking about looking at the D district, because it is a big border with the general district.
Yeah, I mean, that may be a
And there-
problem we should solve.
That is a real I'm a little bit on a mission about it, actually, because of the way the rules are structured, people have built some okay, and in some cases very kludgy buildings that are out of character with the look of the town. And I think because they're building a 2-family, because they can do that as of right. So the question is, well, how do we tweak that so we get a better result? And anyway, so I'd love to include some things in the D district on our walk to think about that problem. Because it's partly a design problem, but it's partly a number of units, size of units. And the third thing I think that Lorraine is worried about, and a lot of people in town who've lived here for a long time are worried about, is how on earth do you encourage lower cost units, you know, so that, yeah, and typically the response I get when talking to friends who have a more market-based view, pure market-based, let's say, rather than a managed market base, is that, oh, well, you know, that's just what it is, you know. But I don't think that's quite right. So I'd
Actually,
like to.
scale is a big problem.
Scale is a huge problem.
Scale and cost are the,
And Sarah, I think, well, we can't understand why someone decided to do something. I think it's really important that we try and understand how our zoning might have an effect on what people do. Because we are in charge of figuring that out going forward, making changes, making adjustments, and so on, right? In fact, that's one of the few tools we have to try and affect what happens in the future. And to me, you only can really do that with an understanding of how the town has developed and how that maybe had something to do with it.
yeah.
And it's happening right in front of our eyes, actually. I mean, I've had a few people in my neighborhood kind of pull me in a bit when I've been looking on the Flatley Ave project, you know, and the problems about it. I mean, people on Vine, people on, I forget what it's called, I think it's Jeffrey's Court. It's like,
Right,
Well,
but those
what's
are
the
two
problems,
different.
though, Sandy?
Hmm?
What are the problems that are caused?
Scale.
well, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Cost.
That
Scale,
that the
yeah.
units that are built are typically very large. They also, and there's a whole issue, and personally, I'm not a designer. So my basis of experience is in city and regional planning, but not specifically building design. And there is a whole issue, which is very obvious at the project on the corner of Brook and School, which is about the massing of the building and how you create something that's not a big, huge lump. And so there's that. And the other issue is, I think it's partly a landscape issue, I'm not sure, but there are areas in town where there are small houses on very large lots. And so the neighbors are used to looking at essentially a forested lot, or a wild meadow.
214 Summer Street.
Well, hello, yes, thank you. So, so the question is, do you have some special rules when there's a big change from an empty lot or a partially emptied lot to something that's extremely full? Or do you make rules that have it not be so full in terms of lot coverage and setbacks and things like that? So there's a whole little snarly tangle of things that we could really, I think, untangle and do some positive good, especially from the point of view of the neighbors.
But I think one of the things we talked about, you weren't on this walk, it's 214 Summer,
Yeah.
is that but you see the plan. The cost of the land, I don't know how that land was on the market for a while, I think, and then the cost to develop that land, means that they essentially have to put in a big house in order to charge enough to recoup their costs. I think in many places.
Well, that's being personally. Does that mean, is that a?
I think he's the owner, he's gonna be the.
No, I think it's.
Yeah, they're building it for themselves.
For themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, but in some cases, when there's the spec houses, there are.
Yeah.
Ron's old house, for example, is a spec house, and that's gonna be, so I think.
But I think John's comment about the project, that it's a hard, there's hard lots left, right? But I don't completely actually buy that, because I think there are lots of big lots that have tiny old houses on them. And that's actually what happened with Flatley Ave.
Yeah.
So now where there was one house in Woods, there are 6 units that are like, luxury, 3-bedroom, blah, blah, blah. And there's similar sorts of situations at the end of Brook, the School Street end of Brook. And there's actually a very interesting situation on Lincoln Ave, which is the dead end, right? And how that came to be, it partly came to be the way it is because of the zoning rules. And it could
Is that the
be.
ADU?
No, it's a whole second house that was plopped down where a garden used to be. And it is more massed than the density of it is greater because of the 2-family thing. Because it got connected, right? So there, to make it a 2-family.
Right on the corner, right there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there's a lot to think about, but I think looking at some of those
To put this in the
things.
context,
I beg your pardon?
to put this in the bigger context, the part of the town that we think is most charming is built without any zoning at all.
That's exactly right.
And so we've got to keep that in mind. And then the other tension is, we want more density, you're gonna have more building, and so there's, how do you reconcile that?
Well, you make the building happen in a way, you set the rules for the building so that the feeling of it is not so dense. There's a way to do that.
That's tricky, that's a tricky thing to do.
It is a very tricky thing to do, but I don't think it's
And
impossible.
we've got a hammer, not a surgeon's knife here.
Well, depends. Depends what we decide, right?
I'm a little surprised that some of the projects don't require, well, we never had one till now, but a design review
Mm-hmm.
component.
So that may be part of
I'm
it.
not sure what triggers that in the future, but it seems like in a town like ours, that would be an expected thing.
Like that house, the new house on the corner of Brook and School,
Mm.
had they built what they were allowed to build.
Two-family by right, I
It's a
think.
free country.
Family by right,
You can do
fill
what
it
you
up.
On 80+% of the, right?
Well, they had to be with the lot coverage requirement.
Right.
Wasn't there a ZBA thing though?
They did go to the ZBA, I don't remember what it was for, but they did go
I think
to
it
the
was the
ZBA.
I think I heard something about that the guy bought it hoping he could do a single family. Gosh, the numbers didn't work. I'm gonna have to do a 2-family, and so we got bigger. Is that ring a bell?
I don't
Yeah, I know.
recall.
These are all
I've
just
ever-
I know
The house that
nothing.
abuts it on the, that's
That's the
next.
charming
right?
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Historic Commission, I mean, this is the thing, is that they've done a lot of survey work up School Street. And maybe not all the way to Pleasant, but a fair halfway, let's say. And we've been talking at the Historic Commission about going to town meeting and expanding the historic district.
Yes.
And so if that particular, let's say that house, that's a two-family, had gone to the historic review, it would look different.
It would look
The
very
massing still might be if the zoning
But it
board
would look,
allowed
it would
them
look
to.
more, it would fit in more.
But it would fit in more, because, I mean, we have a lot of big houses on small lots in the village, but they're historic looking in some manner, in one era or another, and they kind of fit into the character of the town, and that kind of sticks out a little bit, so.
Something else that is quite common is if there's a historic district or a historic commission in town, that any building that's older than 50 years, they have to go to get
Historic
permission.
Commission.
Yeah.
But it's the new
Ah.
ones.
True, but if they knocked a building down, which they did, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
They knocked it, they couldn't do that
Well, it kind of fell.
until they went to get permission from, because it might be historically significant.
Oh, a demo delay bylaw, so that's the other thing, the commission is talking about
Yeah.
about a demo delay bylaw, and they're trying to evaluate how successful are demo delay bylaws, because in some communities, you know, they have demo delay bylaws in an affluent community, like I lived in Newton. Basically, if a demo, they just build it into the budget. The builders or the homeowner, they like, well, we'll live in the house for another year and then we'll tear it down and build our dream home and move into it. You know, so, or, you know, but sometimes it works in the town's favor because it helps them modify the design to be historic looking, whereby they were gonna do something else because they don't wanna wait and they do wanna move into their home for whatever reason sooner. With developers, it kinda can depend, you know, sometimes they'll wait, sometimes they won't, sometimes they'll realize this is a historic district, I wanna build a historic looking building because if I make it fit in with the neighborhood, I'm gonna be able to get a premium on the resale.
Yes.
So, and that's less of the result of the demo delay and more the result of being in a historic district.
Maybe a demo should trigger the design review committee, just that simple.
Well, I think Mark's right, that if I were showing up to that meeting, I would bring a design that they would be appreciative of, that they would like, because you don't want to show something to a group and have them hate it, and then they're not going to think favorably about it. But
They is the Historic Commission.
yeah, and the thing that we always talk about with historic commissions is, well, what teeth do they have? That's what the client always asks. What's the risk? What's teeth? Well, they could delay it a year. Now, if you've got a developer, they look at that as a risk. Well, I don't want to carry this for a year, right? So they likely might pass. But a person who's going to buy that piece of property as their home, they would probably, I would think, time is important. They would want to work with the historic folks in order to do a project that they could get immediate approval of. So I personally like that. I'm also thinking about some houses that I know of in town that are really old, that are not in the historic district, that somehow should be captured so that they're not destroyed without anyone knowing about it.
Maybe the rule about if it's older than 50 years, not necessarily go to the historic district, but it has to have a site plan review and a design review. Something like that. The designs, having design standards is, I think, really important, and applying them.
Okay, well, more to come on that. I wanted to just say one other thing about downtown, which is the new brick sidewalk in front of,
The shed, or
in front
copper
of the shed.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, it is a owner, the Copper Shed owner installed it with his staff without meeting any town standards, and it is gonna stay there, I guess, through at least the 4th of July, and then to be determined what's gonna happen to it.
Yeah, not the copper shed owner, the
No, no,
copper
the-
shed building
the building
owner,
owner.
the building
Yeah.
owner.
And it is,
So,
She would have done
so-
that.
Yes.
Did
So-
he let anyone know he was doing it?
well, sort of.
Sort of, he
The
said,
garden looks
I'd
nice,
like
though.
to do
No,
this.
that's the
They
basic
and
took
plan.
they took it away.
Chuck said, send me some, you know, what you wanna do, and then the next morning,
I called you and said he's
he was
cutting.
already tearing it up, and, yeah, and so.
So I went, I'll tell you now I'm speaking for Sarah, because I went to the select board and I made 3 points, after I made a few other points behind the scenes, but I'm concerned about that we are undermining the downtown improvement committee. This action undermines the
Clearly
down.
are. Steve is very,
Well, I
very
told,
upset about it.
I told Tony he needed to call and to get this, anyway.
So,
The Downtown Improvement Committee, like it or not, has been talking about sidewalks for 20 years. The planning board for a year has been talking about this thing that we've just been talking about. We've said countless times that we're gonna have a public process to talk about streetscapes. And now we go by and there's a streetscape that nobody, it just like appeared.
It's not a
And
good
then
one.
thirdly, it turns out that the garden that was there was done when Linda Crosby owned the property at the request and the expense of the town, maybe CPC funds. The town paid for that garden, which
And
was
it's just been-
lovely.
And it's been ripped out.
And it's been ripped out.
At least 3 times.
At least 3 times. And now we have a plant there that is aggressive and is not allowed to be sold in several states in this country because English ivy is not an appropriate plant. And so I'd like to see the English ivy out of there tomorrow, and annuals or something.
Well, go dig it up.
I'm thinking that why not? Because
Let's go.
That's a good,
No, but
right now.
seriously,
I think unleash the garden club.
I already tried to, and the garden club is mad because they already put it in.
Yes, I
Lisa
know.
Ramirez put that thing in at the town's expense. So my point is to the select board was those 3 that were completely thumbed our nose, the town, however that has happened. And my personal feeling was fine that, like you said, the sidewalk is public property. I don't like the English ivy. I can go out and pull it out tonight and put in a pansy. I mean, who gets to decide? Then tomorrow night, Chris will go out and put in popsicle.
Pansies are kind of past.
I know, whatever. You're the gardener. You are too. But anyway, you get my point. So I think it's, there's continued discussion, I think, at the.
That's crazy.
and just so you know, Gordon, I did discuss it at the last
I had a phone
downtown.
call from Steve,
Yeah.
quite a lengthy one.
Well, he was supposed to get a call from Tony.
I had a long discussion with the Downtown Improvement Committee, and they understood. I mean, Steve was the one who still is, and he's upset not even about the brick. He's upset just because you just can't build what he wants to build,
Right.
and which is a whole different issue. So, yes, Steve Carr, which is a whole different issue. He thinks you can still build that concept plan.
So I convinced him that he can.
Yeah,
And I'll show him why when we show him a set of drawings.
Right, well,
Where
that's.
he is to what it really needs to be. But that's
Yes.
not the issue. The issue is, he doesn't understand why it's taken so long.
So he doesn't.
I think I'm speaking not for him, but that's what he expressed to me. He doesn't understand why we can't get something done.
Well, we have a grant, and we are going to have the street surveyed from, at the very least, from the bridge all the way up to, Beach Street. And based on the cost of what we get for that section, and maybe we'll round the corner of School Street to the fire station. And what we get for a cost, we'll have a couple alternates, because there's always the discussion about going from the culvert to Pine Street. And there's also the discussion about the other end of, in front of Reed Park, you know, that section up to Tappan Street. So there's like 3 different outside sections, so we can get like, you know, the main price and then 2
For survey.
alternates for the survey. So we may be able to do all of that. Then we'll go through the public process with the Historic Commission. I want to make sure we get them involved because most of this is in the historic district, as well as the downtown committee, and work together to get a final streetscape plan for this area, and hopefully get it to 25% design so we can then submit for grant funding to build it.
So all that's good, and I understand it.
So then what happens?
Steve does not understand why we can't get this thing going and get something built,
Well, we are.
and whatever it is.
Well, apparently, if you ask forgiveness and not permission, you can do it.
Right.
Tear it all out.
And if you have lots of money.
Yes.
Well, will it happen that what's been put in will be torn out?
So apparently, it's been explained to Ed Flamia that the brick may have to get removed. Well, first off, the current brick in its installation, the installation is not correct based on the standard, because remember last fall I worked with Chuck and Nate to put a volunteer program together, and we adopted a standard. We hadn't adopted a particular brick yet. Now that's Boston brick that's out there, whatever, City Hall paver is used in some places, and it's a wire cut brick, but it's a little smoother than, you know, there are some other choices that we may as a group decide this is what we want to use. So it's been also explained to him, even if he fixes the installation method, that brick might have to get replaced at his cost to whatever gets selected by the group. So, that's
So
kind of where that.
So it's more to come. The other issue that I raised with Mark today, and hasn't had it 5 minutes to even think about it, but that the Cargo's construction fence bases are obstructing the sidewalk. They are taking up half the
leaning
sidewalk. No, it's the base for the fence. And it's like a tripping hazard. So you're gonna deal with that tomorrow, or soon.
When are they starting construction, do you know?
No.
Still must have a lot more demo to do, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to them about that as
Probably
well.
after the 4th.
So.
Anyway, so those are 2 downtown things that are. Okay, we have been remiss about doing liaison reports, so what I'm gonna try to do is, in the past, what we've had is people who have had liaisons to the various committees and then find out what they're doing, read their minutes, or, you know, get us, call the chair or whatever. So we'll restart that, maybe I'll do a list next time and think about
We
who
can do
you
it
wanna
right
be a
now,
liaison.
we know who they are, the CDC and the
I don't have the list.
facilities group, or, unless you don't want to.
There's like a Parks and Rec.
I have to get up early tomorrow. So we'll come up with a list, and Chris, the CPC.
CDC and the Affordable Housing
And
Trust.
Affordable Housing Trust, and Mark, Brian is the Affordable Housing
Housing
Authority, Housing Authority.
I think I'm Parks and Rec.
Parks and
And
Rec.
it was historical.
Okay.
I'm still waiting to get away.
Yeah, historic and
Peter's on
Concom.
design review.
And that was the schools, but the big school thing is, so we'll, if you know who your group is and you have anything to report, we'll try to at least get it on the agenda next time. So, anyway, we had a little bit of some public hearings. Have you guys been able to get your email and stuff yet? All right, let's try to make that a priority between now and next 2 weeks. Approval of minutes, June 8th.
So there was one thing that I saw in there that Gordon wasn't listed as part of the design review.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and I already
Gary and Chuck.
Yeah, we have a meeting for the design review committee.
The minutes need to be amended to, okay, so I'm gonna reflect we're gonna put Gordon into the minutes.
Meeting tomorrow or Wednesday?
Yeah, when is the design review?
This is gonna be very odd, because he's
June
presenting.
24th.
Wednesday at 4.
Okay, so if anybody wants
Wednesday.
to go, Wednesday at 4 is,
Right here.
There's not a conflict to
yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna take a motion to approve the minutes of,
So moved.
I just read
Is- Are the minutes in the files,
Files say May
they say May
26th.
20?
There's 6/22 or 6/8 is in there.
but it's
Okay.
labeled 6/8.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just need to change the date on that. Just highlight that and include Gordon as a member of the design review committee.
We can, okay, sorry,
Yep.
I would like to talk about that.
Okay, so let's take the minutes of June 8th as amended. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, who said they wanted to talk about something? You did.
So this meeting is scheduled for 4 o'clock. It's an open meeting. Anybody can attend, correct?
Yes.
Does that mean it's gonna be on the screen?
No,
It's not.
I did not set up
Because
the
this is the
Zoom.
type of meeting that's best done over a table with people
Mhm.
talking
That's correct.
conversationally rather than presentationally.
That's correct. In my
Is
opinion.
there an agenda?
Well, there's a
So
meeting posted.
There's a-
There's not a list of different
So if
subtopics.
I may, Peter, there is the, in the MBTA zoning, it gave the whole list of all the design criteria that needs to be considered for any kind of design review. That will be the basis. You've had that already, John, I'm sure, as everything. And I'm sure Gary's got it now, and
Everybody does.
whoever's got it. So it'll be starting off, this is me just talking, it'll just be starting off with just a general discussion of why we're here and so on. The second thing will be a presentation by the architect of the design precedents or design philosophy or design, whatever methodology they came up with. And then there'll be comments from the reviewer, comments, unlike we did here, as to what we do and where we go with it.
Are you the chair of this, by the way?
Huh?
Are you the chair of this design review?
Apparently, there's no.
Sounds like it.
That's great.
So I think this is like every design crit I've ever gone through for 40 years. There's no magic here. But the point of it is, and I had a little discussion with Mark the other day. We can have it if we can't have it out right here like that. I assume the three of us are not going to be trying to sway the design direction or dictate the design direction, but it will be to comment on the design that's presented in front of us.
Right.
Well, I think,
I would, if I may say, I would say that perhaps one of the halo goals around what you're doing is that there's a thought to apply the design guidelines to a wider swath of the town than the CHOD.
Yeah, and also just to sort of see if
Maybe aspirationally, that will be.
Yeah.
but I do think the design review committee is there, just like the design review that the historic commission does, is to provide input directly to the architect and say, okay, the moldings around those windows need more detail. You know, you have a whole wall of, these are the examples I used, a whole wall of siding. How about we take underneath the eave and let's shingle that so we get a little difference, a little visual, you know, something, you know, make it a little more interesting. You know, let's make those columns for the overhang, the porch, you know, instead of just 4x4 posts, let's do turn posts with little capitals and whatever you call them. And so I think that is the job of the design review committee, and not necessarily to approve it, but to give that kind of detailed feedback that a general planning board member may not, have the technical expertise, because you didn't all go to architect school or construction or whatever. So I think that is the feedback that should be given by the committee. And then, the architect goes back, makes some changes, brings it back to the committee. And, so it's more of a, otherwise, then what's the point? It's just.
Well, I will say, Mark, I don't disagree with you, they're certainly welcome to do it, but this is not a mandate from us to make these changes.
No, but these are the things, you've noticed, and the other two members have noticed on the set of drawings that you'd like to see to make it better, to make it more in character with the historic nature of the town and within the design guidelines. In every plan, no matter how well thought out it is, there are often little tweaks and adjustments that can be made, like the drainage plan, that there's one little tweak that I want to call him tomorrow and say, what if we move this wall in this direction? We can capture more of the drainage and send it, that way. And it's the same thing with the architects. It's not to get them to say yes or no on the first meeting. It's to give the feedback. These are the things we see as other design professionals that maybe you can make the plan better. Then come back, get them to go, yeah, that's good, this and that. Maybe one more little thing here, and then vote to send it back to the planning board for your review, because you have other things to consider too.
Yeah, then you're gonna be making a recommendation to the planning board.
This is a bit awkward since I'm involved in the project, and I also wrote the guidelines with Gary, and
talk about a conflict of interest.
So, but
No, that's organizational knowledge, I don't think that's.
The whole point of the guidelines was to give them something that they can reference and make comparison to when they're looking at a design. But then also very heavily, I think, in the guidelines was reference to the context, because our town is pretty diverse.
Yes.
There's different styles all over the place. So the best tool you can use is your own eyes, right? And looking at the neighborhood and the styles and the details. And to be honest, in general in our town, the details are pretty high. Like there's nice materials and nice details. So it would be very easy, I think, for a committee to say, hey, the house next door has got clapboards. Like we think you should consider clapboards instead of corrugated metal cladding or something, right? It's those kind of comments that I think are helpful and the goal.
Yep.
And by the way, every one of these that I've ever been a part of, they're usually a conversation, and when you can.
That's what it's got to be. It's got to be a across the table, conversational. Not an agreement or a dictate. It's just let's talk about this.
I wonder when the first cargo plan came to fruition.
If you think
What
about
would have happened if that would have been presented to?
Oh, it's been a disaster. The best thing that ever happened is what did happen to it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But that wasn't a design review committee. I wonder.
Well, it was kind of, it was the historic
Yeah,
commission.
the historic commission.
And also there was sort of some sideline conversations about, particularly about the parking being in front. To me, that's the biggest one, is like parking garage stalls there. But I'm thinking about our Summer Street properties and wondering how our bylaw sounds very lofty in terms of protect the, less injurious to the neighborhood and, not taking all of the, keeping as much of the topography as possible and keeping as much of the existing vegetation. And when we see it, the land has been, stripped.
Scorched.
And a plan is well in place. What I would rather see, and that site might not be a good example, but just for argument's sake, is come earlier and say, well, maybe you can't get such a, like, could we move could it be a house that's a little closer to the street that has less, I know why they, it's not gonna have the same view except from the second floor instead of from the first floor or whatever. It just feels like the bylaw wants us to say, no, you can't allow us, maybe not, I don't wanna use that specifically, but allow us to sometimes say, no, you can't put the house there. Even though they're, and I don't know, Mark, can we ever do that?
Isn't that stretching our little limits a little bit?
I mean, let's take Bridge Street in Hamilton. Let's take Bridge Street in Hamilton.
Those are the ones I'm thinking about when I see that
Well,
problem.
that's what we were thinking about with 208. Those are the
Gordon
block
House,
walls,
The Gordon Seminary.
the
Oh, okay.
so that
Oh,
is,
God.
just a, and they're not even selling, interestingly enough.
They're not selling.
Giant houses with big block walls in front of them on a hillside that
I
just
know.
awful. And, a design review might have said, move the house, step the house into the hill, or whatever you would do to avoid that.
Well, so for the other Summer Street property, I mean, they had proposed a large
Veneer wall.
veneered or block wall
Like
first, right? And then it was your comment about, can you face it, can you do this, and what about stepping it and
Yeah, but
softening the thing, and so.
But that's another place where I feel like they could have put the house, they did have space between where they built and the road, and if they brought the house closer to the road, it would have had less disruption of the topography and the vegetation, maybe.
Yeah. The trouble, if it seems to me in a site plan review, you could require a house to be in a different location. But if the different location were also not practical,
Right, well then
then
that's,
you're screwed.
right, and maybe in 214, that's kind of the case.
I think it might be.
So remember, it's not really site plan review, it's a special
Earth
permit
removal.
because of the earth removal, the alteration. So it's a single family home, so typically that's really doesn't fall within the kind of planning board review, it's just a house, so.
But just a house that more than 2.5 times our ledge removal.
Right, and that's why we require things like, looking at walls, looking at grading, looking at drainage, you kind of take all of that into account, I mean.
And in case you didn't know, it's all ledge.
Except for that one pocket or the septic.
No, it's
Okay.
all ledge.
Yeah.
And actually, sorry, I think it's important that
I think it's
we don't have the ability to tell them what to do. So this is kind of like an architect who's doing a house or a project, whatever, and the contractor's job is to build it. We don't tell them, hey, you got to connect that differently. I don't like that. And the thing falls down, we get sued and we're in big trouble.
I lived with that for decades. Don't tell them how to build it.
So we have certain things that we can tell them, but certain things.
I just
probably
wish
best
I
that
kind of
we
wish we saw it earlier where somebody would come in and say, well, I'm thinking about putting the house, I don't know how we do that.
The Pine
And then
Street property is an example
Yeah.
of that, actually.
Yeah. Okay, well.
I mean, in 214, when you read through all those, the storm management, construct an entrance, a construction entrance, it sounds like they haven't even done that yet, right? They're driving over the sidewalk, they said?
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's so much stuff that's in that stormwater that they haven't even done yet.
Right, because they
but-
haven't got an approval yet.
Yeah,
Right.
it hasn't been approved.
But
But he's on the site,
They're trying to do the best they can
Yes.
with a
Yeah.
very difficult
Yeah.
site, so I appreciate that effort, but that site is,
It's all ledge.
I love it. We're supposed to try to maintain the contours and forget it. This place has just been like clear cut and creating new contours.
Are we allowed to make recommendations to the homeowner, like, for example, or to the neighbor?
Careful.
Take photographs of your interiors, take photographs of your fireplace.
Yeah, no, don't go there.
Don't go there.
I think what you would, I think,
Well, that's what happened with CST, right?
When they do blasting.
no, what you would do is we might advise the
You
applicant.
absolutely should if they're gonna.
I think
blast.
what we would do is advise the applicant and the homeowner to talk about getting a pre-blast survey.
Which we
And
did.
that then,
Well, that's part of the whole blasting.
Yeah, that's
permitting
the fire
process.
department, wasn't it the fire
Yeah.
department?
Yeah, that's all part of the requirement.
They learned their lesson on self-signaling as to how to deal with it.
yeah, but
That was bad and good at the
Yeah.
same time.
anyway, okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
First,
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
we'll see it on Wednesday night here.